Bam, 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 bam.
I can remember how you fucking intro these things.
Crazy, you don't even need it just stores it in this?
Yeah, it's got a card in here.
That's insane.
I've learnt with these as well. If you extend a mondo, they're probably better holding it.
What?
If you actually,
Why did they not? Did they need to be pretty close?
I might swap with you, Chuckles, and sit there.
Didn't need to be up in the brrrr.
And you sit there.
Pop, 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 pop. Scrat. Pop, 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 pop. Brrrr.
The thing.
I'll give you that.
Ting, ting, yeah, yeah.
Give me my bevy.
Pass me my Beverano.
My Beverino.
Do we only had the headphone on? Do we only have the headphones on?
Yeah.
Can I scoot this over?
Yeah, scoot away. It's probably good. I found like it's better if you like extend it and you can just like sit it there and chat with it. I found that's the best alternative. Or have it on like
Holy hell, these things are
heavy.
all this is in that when you're flying with it?
In that bag.
That's annoying, hey?
Oh, dude, it sucks. But how you do this for doing one podcast since you've been over here? I'm very familiar with it. Alright, okay. Yeah, oh, you got it.
What's this thing do?
I don't know.
Oh, you know what? I think it's, yeah.
What have we done, Rico?
Oh, well, I think you're maybe going the wrong way. I started unscrewing it a lot up the way. Right, tight, like Lucy.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Voila. Stick it in my schnatz.
Chuck's unplugged it and plugging it back in.
I was...
Pop up. Skip it pop. Gonna point it up like this. Give it a bit of a head angle.
Do what you want with it.
that
This
dial?
is your episode, by the way.
We're here for you.
Do you feel like you're back on Red Bull TV with Rob Warner?
Oh, can I get some gum?
No, come on now.
What do you want? Some gum?
Yeah.
Where is it? That's over there.
You've branded Savage on the track as well. Should I be doing that?
Can if you want. You can get changed. This is your podcast.
We're already recording though, so you're pretty much locked in now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can leave as long as it's not too far. That's why I got two people, so we've got to fill in here as well.
Fill in right there.
All right, we're ready. We're ready to do it. We into it?
I thought we were already off.
We've been off for a while.
Check.
I like to start the podcast before like I do like an intro with people, so
Yeah,
then
okay.
people just start talking. I feel like when you're like, all right, 3, 2, 1, and we're live, then people go,
That makes it a thing.
because I used to do it where I would introduce someone and then they'd be like put on the spot and they didn't like it because I'd be like, I don't know what to do. So
It
then
definitely does make a difference. If
Yeah,
you
but-
make it a set start.
yeah, because then
I feel like we're all comfortable with each other enough that
we're pretty loose around here. We're good. I think we're good. We're lubed up.
we run a loose ship at the Trek Factory Racing. All right.
Look, I'm just tossing the gum around the studio like that.
All right, we'll do an intro anyway. We're here with Reece. This is actually Reece Wilson's podcast. Charlie Harrison's just the fill-in presenter. Here for comical relief and and some wisdom. But yeah, mainly here with Reece Wilson, the 2020 world champion. Oof. How was that? Let's start right off the bat with that because I wasn't there for that, but I thought it was pretty fucking cool to see that. And like, how did it feel just like coming out of such a pretty hectic year and then just going straight to being like, okay, I'm world champion? Like, how was that?
Yeah, no, hell of an experience. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine how ridiculous it was yourself.
Yeah.
Like if that had happened to you, you'd have a pretty good idea how it felt. It was mental. I mean, it was such a chill year because nobody was doing anything. Everybody was stuck at home. Well, chill, depending on where you lived. But for me, I was pretty lucky out in the countryside. It was a pretty chill year. And then you turn up to the first race of the year, which happens to be world champs, and then win it. So yeah, it was a bit of a. It went 0 to 100 real quick. Yeah.
Did you think it was good as well? Because you obviously would have spent all that time at home in like had like a bit of a summer, like leading into it. So it was like you kind of I don't know because I guess with racing, obviously you get a European summer, but you're always racing. You're at home, so it's like you got some time to be like, oh sweet, I can just kind of chill, have fun, ride my. What is it? TTR? TTR.
Yeah, no, definitely. I got to do a whole heap of stuff that you never get to do because it was like an actual good chunk of a British summer at home.
Yeah.
And we're pretty lucky. We actually had a really good summer as well in 2020. Sun was shining. It was an amazing, like, I think a good 4 or 5 months of just kind of training and riding and building trails and just doing fun stuff with your mates at home, which we never normally get to do in the summer either way. So yeah, it was such a strange year in every sense. So, yeah, everything was different. So it was.
So you went from this like crushing thing to like no racing, nothing's happening, all this stuff. Oh wait, I can hang with my buddies, and then you're like, oh wait, I can be world champion. Yeah.
No, there was definitely so many positives that came out of that situation. I think for either a lot of people got buried in it, or you kind of came out lighter and freed, and kind of saw some light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe made some changes to life. And
yeah, did you feel that going to when you went to Leo Gang as well? Like, did you feel like, because I heard a lot of people were complaining about the track and like real negative, and not to name names, but all those people that were complaining and real negative did really badly, and then all the people that just seemed like they're having fun and just happy to be there did really well. So it was like that change of like just enjoying it, and like you said, being lighter and just like we get to race our bikes, let alone at a World Cup. Just enjoy that. Don't actually worry about the truck's going to be a bit muddy, and not actually stress so much about the little details, but just be grateful for the whole. Is that what you found?
I mean, whether you're consciously doing it or not, I don't know. But I think it's, I don't know. I don't think I consciously stopped myself to do that. But when I did arrive there, like we went to Schladming the 2 weeks before, and I was just enjoying riding my bike so much. I wasn't worried about what bike setup I was doing. Like I genuinely wasn't thinking about anything other than just riding my bike, because I guess that's all I'd been doing at home for however many months was building trails and then riding it with my friends. And you don't care about going fast or training. You're just doing what you love to like. That's kind of why I started doing it in the first place. So
it sounds real easy to get in that thing. It's like just ride your bike, but.
No, it can
be a slippery slope.
We know that, yeah. Well, it's the same, like we've been discussing this so much over the last 2 weeks, or like the last however many races we've had. Like both of us come in with expectations, and then you like smash your own expectation. Like Charlie was like, I just want to qualify and get a race going. You finish 36, which is like pretty fucking solid for your first race. And we're both sat in the pits like grumpy as hell. And we're both looking at each other like, he's saying to me, what the fuck's wrong with you? And I'm looking at him like, well, what's wrong with you? You're both trying to be happy about it. And unless you're winning, it's so hard to find happiness because you're trying so hard.
Do you feel like that doesn't last that long though, that negativity now? Like that, like for me, I'm the same. Like I think if you're a competitor and you're top of anything, you've got to have that, I want more, I want more, I want more. But I don't dwell on it anymore. Like you have like a day and you're like, it's all right. The sun's shining, it's all good or whatever. And then you snap out of it. But then I don't know, it's a weird thing about you want that competitiveness, but you don't want it to like drown out the enjoyment of just what you actually get to do.
Yeah.
So it's like that
I feel like it's definitely shorter for myself, but I feel like that's a product of like over the last 2 years, basically not racing at all, being injured. And then like now I kind of just have this perspective where I'm like, like I'm not going to let a piece of paper tell me if I'm happy or not. And I know like you use that in your post, but it's like, it's so true. And it's so easy to get caught up in it, and everyone does and is guilty of it at a certain point. But the way I look at it, it's like, regardless of the result, like I know for sure I've done everything I can to be as ready to go for the race as possible. And then throughout the race weekend, I would have done everything I can to be as successful as possible. So it's like, if I'm meeting my expectations or not, as bad as it still sucks, like you still dwell on your expectations, but at the same time, it's like, I did what I could, and it's not from a lack of effort. If it was like one of those ones where you did bad and you're like, oh, I know I could have done better, then that's justified to get on yourself. But yeah.
Do you find that as well? Like if you give it your all, like you give it your all and you come up short, but you like, that's when I started to be happy. Like if I gave everything and I got whatever position, but I was like, that was everything. I didn't have any more today. That was everything. I'd be content. Yeah. But if I felt like I didn't give everything and even did well, I'm more disappointed in that. And that's the thing that's just like that you're your worst critic as well. So it's like, it's funny when people come up to you and they're like bummed off something because you didn't get the result they would expect you to get, but you're like, man, I had fun, rode good. That's what I got. And that's how it's going to be. But I think it's like, you got to have like self-talk to yourself to be like, it's okay. Like it's okay to like get a not the best result, but also put in all the work, like put in the effort that you should have or did do. Yeah. But
no, that definitely makes a difference for me. Like if you have absolutely nailed your day or your whole week and you laid down a perfect race run, you're sat at the finish going, that was everything I had. I don't think I could have done it any better. and people start coming down and beating you, it's a lot easier to sit and be content with it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you had mistakes and you're sat in the hot seat and you see sections and you're like, oh,
he's going to pull, he's going to pull,
and you can see them pulling time and you're like, shit. And then you see the result they got and you're like, you almost use that as a benchmark. You're like, fuck, I could have been top 5 today if it hadn't been for these silly mistakes. Yeah. And like we've said it so many times, the lack of opportunities we get in a year, it makes it even easier to beat yourself up. Because I think it's patience for me. Patience, the hardest thing to have. When you only have 6 times a year to try and tell yourself it's okay if it doesn't happen this weekend, but then you're sitting, you think, wait a minute, I've only got another 5 weekends in a whole year to make this happen.
Yeah, they run out quick, don't they?
And a little mistake in our sport now is 10 places, and 10 places really puts you off the map. You know, if you're not in the top 10, people don't really. Or even Lenzerheide, I was 8th, and not a single photo post anywhere. Like you were talking about this, no man's land. Yeah, you just nobody cares. Yeah, like you're either winning, you're 3rd. Maybe 10th because you're like top 10, and then nobody else gives a shit about the rest.
Yeah, those weird numbers like 11, like 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th, like it's just that kind of nowhere kind of thing. And like you said, people, it's so like cutthroat, but I guess that's always going to be like racing is going to be super cutthroat like that. But it's a tricky one. Like you said, you got 8th and you were like, not like you weren't bummed about it, but you just that little, like what could have been. I had the same thing at Leger. You know how you say like people, like I obviously got the rain, which helped a lot, but a whole
really,
I missed the rain. But then I got to the bottom and like I had a terrible run. Like I almost crashed like 3 times because it was still slippery. I was trying to push the edge still. Yeah. Almost crashed like 4 times. Like just probably the worst run I had all week. And I get to the bottom and then obviously because of the rain, I got 6th and everyone's coming up and congratulating me. And I'm like, I rode terrible. Yeah. I rode terrible, and then the rain came in and saved the day, and you were coming up and like, congrats. I was like, and then that's a weird thing. It's like, I didn't give it I gave it my all, but it wasn't very good. Yeah. And then do people come and congratulate you for that? It's just like.
Yeah, but it's cool of you to recognize that because no one would like the person that, you know,
claims it.
Yeah. Gets a good result because of the weather and then they're claiming it.
Yeah. But it's funny because then I look at like your Leger run where
it's the polar opposite.
Exactly. Yeah. So you just gave it everything, and then because I thought that was cool, man. Because I kind of realized that like you don't have to win the race to be the real winner, and that's the thing. You didn't win that race, but you probably got more recognition and more spotlight than Thibaut did. Like if you think of Leger in the wet, you'd think back to that race, and it reminded me a lot. Even watching it, reminded me of Sam Hill in Champéry when he did that run, and I was like, "This is cool." He's got world champs jersey on, white as anything, just look and fly, and then you just like the whole like. There's no way that someone could even come close, and like like your times are a bit off, but like by far the fastest guy in those conditions, and the probably like when you qualified 4th or
4th, I think.
Yeah, so in the worst of it, and it's just like even the fact that you just went for it, like you see like I don't know if it was Loic or something, but they kind of just cruise down, but it's just like no one's going to remember that. And it's like you went for it, even though it didn't pay off, you went for it, and people like appreciate that so much more than the guy that just goes, oh, there's no way this is possible. But then like once you even said like I thought I could do it, and that's what people remember that thing. And I think that's the cool thing that people, when they see you like believe that you can do it, it's just like that's what people want to see. Like that's entertainment. It's like this guy believes he can, even if like there's no hope in hell in everyone else's mind. If you can flip that switch, you're like, oh, maybe like, and that like that's cool. And that's not like you can't just do that at any race. So I think it's like like the weather gave you the opportunity to then shine in that way, which I think is. I thought it was like that's. I remember like watching that run and being like, oh, like, and that's cool. Like imagine all like the young kids at home that would have seen that and been like, shit. Like it honestly was the first time I've seen like a Sam Hill style run like that. Probably the only other time was when Gwyn beat me at Mont Saint Anne when it was like
true. Yeah, it's just like that was insane.
That's what I mean. But it's just, like imagine saying after like all the guys come down, oh, someone could still win this. You'd be like, no way. No way.
Yeah, it's interesting how it changes the mindset too. Like if Reece didn't qualify as well as he did. Like if he had qualified like 20th or 15th or something, it would be interesting to see if there were other guys that went fast as well.
Yeah.
Because it was the same with like that same year that Gwyn won in St. Anne. Jack was like the first one out of us top 20 to like really put down a good run. And then after that, everyone was like, okay, you actually can go fast right now.
Thanks for that, Jack. Yeah. Because I remember people at the bottom said like they saw Jack's run and he was, I think because he went into 4th or something, but like not that far back. And it gave everyone like the hope to be like, oh shit, we can, like, you can do it. Because everyone before him was so far off the back, and then he came down, it was like, okay, this is doable. And like that, like, I remember you said after you became world champion, like, you believed you could do it.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that like changes good riders to becoming great riders, is that belief that, okay, I can do this. And that's something I realized in 2018 at Croatia when I qualified second, and it was like this switch flicked in my head where it wasn't like, oh, I'm riding good, everything's working. It's like, oh shit, I could win this. And like once you think that, you try harder.
Yeah.
And it's just like, even like subconsciously, it's like, why don't I always try that hard? It's like, if you don't believe you can do something, for whatever reason, you don't actually give it 100%. Like I remember sprinting out of the gate, just like, everything, like every little inch. And like you said it, Leo Gang, when you won, it was like you believed you could. So once you have that belief that you can actually do it, it becomes that much, like, not easier, but it's like you try that little bit harder. And I think it's like you just need to find that belief. And I think that's when you get good results and consistency and start building, that belief becomes more real. But it's like if you don't, I don't know, you gotta get comfortable with like doing that repeatedly. And then I feel like that's something after you became world champion as well. Did that, like, obviously you did it, and then it was almost just like, oh shit, I can do it and I should be here. Because from that year, you know how some people get the rainbow stripes and then they kind of flounder a bit? You did the opposite. You actually, I think you stepped up just as a rider in general. Do you feel like that was something that happened, or do you reckon the rainbow stripes did that for you? Like gave you the confidence to be like, I am here, I should be here, I'm at the top, and just consecutively like riding good and getting good results?
I don't know. It's like you said, that confidence is like really what I think everything we do every week comes down to mindset. Like you said, it's like we all train so differently. We all come from so many different places around the world. Like you can't possibly replicate somebody else's magic serum. Like it's just, that's not possible. You have to do it your own way. And then to do it your own way, you can do everything absolutely perfectly. But like you said, if there's even an ounce of doubt in your mind, you're not going to reach that like flow state. Yeah. And me and Matt Walker were actually talking about this, because obviously he had an insane season in 2020. My season was pretty insane, but then I crashed out in Maribor, like qualified, amazing, and then crashed out in finals and had to go home and sit and think about that. Yeah. And then I was sat at home thinking, you know, and you start reading comments. That was where I kind of stopped paying attention to the internet, because you read comments and like, but it was because it was wet. And it got me so fired up, because I was like, does that
it's
really
wet for
matter?
everyone.
It's wet for everybody. Like, what? I don't understand how that's an excuse for somebody to do better than anybody else. Like, if that is the hardest possible conditions to race in, then if the guy that wins, he's the best in those conditions. Like, what's the, you know?
It's like if Mick Hanna wins a pedally track, it's like, oh, it's because it's pedally. It's like, that's the track we race.
It's because he's fit as hell and he pedals like an animal. That's why he deserves to win. So don't say these things to try and like bring people down. So I was sat at home just fired up and found myself getting real frustrated. And then obviously Matt's wave just came along and off he went. Like once and we were talking about this at Val di Sole, that he was like, I don't feel like I've done anything differently this year. He said, I came in with the same preparation. I'm on the same bike, same team. I've changed nothing. And yet it's just not going for me. He was like, what do you do? Like, wait, and then you naturally, for all of us, you just start searching. You're like, well, I've clearly missed something. I need to go and look for it. So you start changing bike settings, like we've all been there.
Hey, mine worked. But I know what you mean, dude. It becomes you just you want to find something. You want to find a magic cure, because you're like, what is it?
But the thing is, it doesn't even have to work. That's what's so amazing about your brain. Your brain is so powerful that it doesn't. The thing that you're doing doesn't have to work at all. It just has to be. It just has to make sense in your head. If you're like, this is going to help. Tomorrow you're going to get up and it's going to help you. Did the bike help you?
Well, it's a placebo.
Probably not.
It's a placebo. It's massive placebo.
It's just a sugar pill. Like you just if you convince yourself this is going to be insane, it's going to be insane. So it doesn't really matter. But then sometimes I'm changing bike. This is it. It's insane. Turn up to the next again race and you qualify 20th and you were expecting a top 10. So then you're like, fuck, right, it's something else. So you take off and find something else. And it's just, that's where I say patience. You just need to sit and go, right, no, the bike was perfectly fine at the last races when I won. So why? Don't change it. It's fine. It's just me. And it's just almost waiting for a few things in life to click and things in life come up that distracts you from what you're doing. Like you said, that level of focus you need. Like you said, when you qualify second and you're like, your mindset switches, you're like, fuck, I believe it, I can do it. But it's a focus that you add. So then that focus takes so much energy. And if one or two things, girlfriends, bills, whatever it is, everybody has them, that comes in and it just takes a little bit of focus away, that's enough. The wave goes from being 6 foot tall to 3 foot tall pretty quick, you know, and you go from being top 5 to just scraping a top 20.
And we've got
It's
so
small
many
things.
we've got so many things that can come into play to change that as well. Like that's like it's been bad lately. I've been on social media a lot, but every time I go away from it, every time I step away and stop reading things or looking at things, my focus increases tenfold. I feel more like grounded. I feel better. As soon as I go back onto it, I'm just like you say, you start thinking about all this stuff, and your brain can only handle so much intake a day. And if you're filling it with all this garbage, how are you supposed to focus on a downhill track where there's a million different variables that can mess you up? Or like, getting even for now, man, like when I was in Val di Sole, it was funny because I'm like, when I go home, I got a quarantine and I was trying to work out all this stuff with that and all these different parts, and like, dude, you just get stressed out on that, and then you're like, oh fucking, I've got world champs I've got to race, and your brain's trying to comprehend all this stuff. And it's like, how are you supposed to focus and do well with that? Like, but it's just like, if you can have a clean slate, and then it's weird once you get that, like you were talking about like Jack Moyer at the moment, and like he's found his groove, he's got his mojo, and it's just, when you see it, it's just like, oh dude, like that, it's so cool to see. And it's just like, and then everyone's like searching to get there, because it's like, once you start being the man, it's just like you believe you're the man, and then you rock up. It's like when you race a local race at home, like do you rock up and just be like, I'm gonna win? By like, I'm like not in a cocky way, but like if I go to a state race at home, I'm like, there's no question about it. I'm gonna absolutely just. And it's funny because it's not like, I feel like I probably ride better at a state level than I do at a World Cup level, because I go there so relaxed, there's no pressure, there's nothing, and I just have fun on my bike. Like I enjoy the hot, and I'm like, how do I take that and then bring that to a World Cup? Because I know as a kid, like you do state level and you get really comfortable and good, and then you go to national level and you're a bit timid, and then you get used to it, and you're like, oh, this is fine. Then you go World Cup and you're the same thing. It's like that progression, but it's like going to a World Cup and then just being like, I'm the man. And it's just making it happen. Like you see people that get on a roll, like Sam Hill, Josh Bryson, Aaron Gwynn, Greg, like all the guys, you see them, they get into this groove. And it's these little things where they just ride comfortably, and just, it's just like, oh, you've found it. You found that groove, and it's just like, how do you get there? And then consecutive weekends and just stay in it. Because that's another thing. It's like you say, like Matt got in the groove, and then it wasn't even that long, because when was the last race in Portugal?
Yeah, it was pretty late.
October.
Yeah, like late October, and then we come back and race, and like he's not doing badly, but he's not winning.
It's taken him a while, It's taken him a long time to get back to where he was, or like where you'd argue he was, but it hasn't went backwards. It's like everybody else has just stepped up, or like people like Loris just find their grooves. Tebow, like they've found their grooves now. Like you can't just get in your groove and stay there for 15 years. Like it doesn't work like that. Even Sam Hill, I'm sure, had days where he absolutely smashed a run and he barely scraped the top 20, and he stood there going, well, I did I smoke everybody by 6 seconds last week, and now I get smoked by 6, and you do nothing differently. Like,
I wonder what mind games that plays as well, because like I know it's like I've found grooves like I've done well, but I've never done to the point of like winning by large margins. But like imagine winning by a large margin and feeling a certain way, and then going to a race the next weekend and getting, like you say, like 15th or something. You'd be like, what happened? And then that can make you search as well. But I think it's the whole thing of like just understanding that there's a process, and there's good, bad, everything indifferent. So it's like you just got to understand that and then keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think as long as you can like keep that understanding where it's like, you know, like we're doing the right things, and like everything's set up for, you know, even if you're not doing how you want to, or, you know, getting the results you want, like just knowing that they will come eventually. And just, I feel like that's way safer and way more effective. Just be like, look, like the process is like, we're doing the right things and this will come together. You just need to be patient. Like you were saying, like
and
just wait for it.
And the process isn't even a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. And like, once you can get to that point where you're like actually enjoying the you know, the build up to it and just going through it, then that's super powerful. Yeah.
I think it's just finding like a good routine as well at a race. Like I know in 2019, it was funny, like I was doing the podcasting and running around like nights before the races and stuff. Like I remember I did John Hall the night before the Leger World Cup, and he's like, dude, you sure you want to be doing this? You've got to race a World Cup. And I was like, dude, this chills me out. Like this like
it's almost like anything to get your mind off of racing. Like all like just looking back at like our team's history, like the races where like we've just like had fun, like Leger, in 2019, how we had the RC car, and like every night we were just doing like, we built the little track in the yard, and we were just doing like time trials and racing each other. And it's like, you know, we spend so much of the day, you know, you're riding, you're reviewing lines, you're walking the track, you're spinning, warming up, cooling down, all these little processes that go into building a race weekend. It's like, you know, once your work's done with that at the end of the day, like you need something to get away from that. And like, I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, you know, when I get done with my day and like all our work's done, like, oh, if I needed to walk the track, I walk the track, whatever, you know, met with coach, looked at, you know, studied lines, all that sort of stuff, kind of figured out what I need to do for the next day as far as like changing stuff or improving sections. And it's like, okay, I'm done. Like, yeah, I'm not going to try and think about bikes for the rest of the night. You know, like I'm just going to binge YouTube and watch surf edits, something that just chills me out. And it's like that. And it's connected too, because it's like surfing is like my way to escape bikes. And I think that's super powerful in life. Like you need something that you're passionate about that distracts you from your main thing in a good way. I mean, it's the same with you picking up golf. Like, you know, you would go to the golf course and it's like all the little stuff that you've, you know, stressed out about racing. So it's like, you know, we go to sleep thinking about racing. We wake up thinking about racing. It's like, you need something to just go and
it's like to ground you again.
Yeah.
And like put you on like a level where you're just like, oh.
And then you can come back and you're more motivated because you had that reset where you were able to get away from it.
I think that comes back to, you know, talking about like all your happiness being put down to the result on the piece of paper. If you have a weekend where like you have fun from Monday to Saturday and you're like, oh, this week's been awesome, I've had all this fun. You're not so, I guess, set on like, okay, I need a result now.
Yeah, because in a sense you've already banked up like you already know how many positives you've had from the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. But how often do someone message you like and be like, oh, it looks like you've been having fun over there, and like you'll be straight away like, oh yeah, but I haven't been getting results, or like, oh yeah, but it could be better. And you always do that when you're like imagine what our lives look from someone from the outside, especially right now from people in Australia that can't even travel, and I'm just going country to country doing whatever I pretty much like. And then imagine for me to be like, if they're like, oh, it looks like you're having fun, I'm like, oh yeah, man, but I'm not getting the results I want. You're like, shut up. like you said, that all comes if you keep chipping away at it. And like being negative doesn't, what does Biggie say? It's like negativity brings failure. So it's like no one's looking to fail. So it's just be positive with it. And like you said, it will come if you keep doing, especially if you've done it. That's a big thing as well. If you've done it in the past, you know that process does work.
Exactly. And it's funny how you can know that the process works, but then when you get in those down areas, you're still like abandoned ship. We're changing it all up. Like everything's
Because dude, it's a slippery slope either way you go with it, like good and bad.
Yeah, because then you can go the other way too, where you get complacent and you get stuck in your routine, and you're like, "Oh, this worked in the past, so it's a dead giveaway. It's going to work in the future." Where it's like you need that variation, but it's like how do you do what's been proven for yourself, but then still search for that 1%.
That next thing, Oh, that's tricky.
So I think it's like the balance between me and you is the following your heart. If we had to put it in a bracket, it's like I'm a guy that's going to follow my heart. Chuck's a guy that's going to follow the program. Like he is not wavering from the program. He sets it out and he's going to follow it, because then at the end of that line, he knows he's done absolutely everything he needs to. But in the past, or up until now, I'm still trying to find the balance, which is where being on a team with Chuck for 3 years has been so good, because I'm like, fuck, I could do all of that stuff so much better than I'm doing it. Like having a routine and stuff like that, because I'm just a heart follower. I'll just wake up and go, I feel a bit tired. It's probably best if I just don't ride my bike today. And then you're like, well, is that helping?
But also it's the thing, like what works for Chuck will not work for you.
Well,
and that's what I hate, when someone's like, remember when Josh Bryson was doing really well? And then everyone's like, oh, but imagine if he trained like Gwyn, he'd be even better. And he's like, he might quit after.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he might hate it. Like that's the thing. You can't compare people to people and styles to styles and anything like that, because it doesn't work. Because I'm similar to you, and like I have a program, but I can variate from that depending how I feel. Because like if I wake up and it's like I should ride downhill today, and I don't even want to look at my downhill bike, I know it's going to be more negative, me going to do something that I really don't want to do now, and there's going to be more of a negative impact on me personally than if I go out and ride my bike and do 6 or so runs. But it's like, it is good sometimes to have that little bit of like discipline to be like, oh, but what happens if we're at a World Cup and I feel the same? So it's like, you do need that. But like you say, finding the balance is something that I don't think is an easy thing to do.
Well, that's it. Heart, it is. That's almost the two things: is heart and balance. Because you need to have a happy heart to have a happy head. Like that's all comes in that like positivity mindset. But then you need to know that you've done the work, and that you look around and you think, right, I'm as fit as all of these guys, so that you can just tick the box and be like, that's something I no longer need to think about. Because if you're sat in the line and going, oh fuck, I missed 2 sessions last week, like, and then that's enough. That's you've just thrown 5% out the window. Like you've just you're wasting your time. So it's just going through and ticking all of these boxes so that you know you're in a good space.
It is a good feeling when you like get to a race and you're like, I've ticked so many of these boxes. You're looking around, and that's where you get the confidence from. It starts building from there.
And then you walk around the pits and somebody's like, oh, the bike's shit, and and you're walking away like, fucking hell, all right, okay, well, my bike's good. So and then you just climb the ladder as the week goes on.
It's funny, like I've gotten to the point now where like just like you said, when you pick up on people like complaining, you're like, oh, thanks for that. Like
that's an extra second.
Like like you just basically gave away 1% to me, you know, like it's just making it easier to compete with you.
Exactly.
So
it's like, oh, that's another one ticked off.
No, it is. You can see it, like you said, with people putting videos up after World Champs of 2020. That was like the big thing for me. Was like got to the bottom of the track walk, and like 4 of the biggest dogs in the sport that I've looked up to for so long were like just bitching. Like I've never heard anything like it. And I was like, fuck, walked away from there. Like my chest was huge. I was like, this is amazing.
Because you've just lost.
Because they've just lost. They've just handed me the race basically. I just felt like all I need to do now is not crash, because those guys have crashed and burned, and they're only a track walk day. Like it was crazy. It does make a difference. Yeah.
But we've all been there at one point, and it's funny. Like even you'll be in that bad state, and you know that you're in it, and you're not doing anything productive for yourself, but you still are just like,
you just keep digging. Like, keep digging. Why am I doing it?
I remember every time it would rain at a World Cup, I would literally just be like I had crashed before I even put my dude. And then I started to think, like, if it rains at home and I'm just riding, I actually have fun. Like it actually is quite fun. So I'm like, what?
But I find there's a very big difference. It's crazy how your mindset changes from like riding in the rain,
to
like
racing in the rain,
lapping in the rain, to having to race in the rain. And it's like, once you can bridge those two, then that's where you can start doing well.
But I think that all comes back, man, to just because when you're not racing, you're having fun, and when you're racing, I feel like for some reason your brain is like, you can't have fun and go fast. Where it's like, bullshit, you can have so much fun and go fast. And normally when you have fun, I was in this podcast, and this guy talks about a happy athlete's a dangerous athlete because he's willing to push his body past, like he's willing to take more pain to get, because he's like his level's up here, so he's got so much room to improve and to push himself. Where if you're negative, like you think about when you hop in an ice bath, if you're like just had a good day practice, you've just qualified second or first or whatever, you're like, I'm jumping in that ice and I'm enjoying it. If you just got like qualified 60th, just scraped in, you're not feeling good on the track, you're like, what's the point, kind of thing, and then you won't do it, and it's just like
it's like when everything's going well, you're just like, oh, like you just have complete confidence that all the other stuff is working. But then when you're not doing well, you're like, well, if that stuff's not, it's clearly not paying off. So what's the point of doing it?
It's a bad spiral to get in. Like you won't do things like even like stretching, simple stuff. You'd be like, oh, like there's no, and then you just compounding how like the feeling is getting worse and worse. It's like when you see someone gets real hungover and then they go eat shit food as well. The next day they're like, oh, I feel sorry for myself. And then you eat shit food, and then you like sleep on the couch, and it's just like, what are you doing? You're kicking yourself way down.
You've just jumped down the water slide 2 feet first, and you're swooshing down.
Then it just goes back to what we were talking about. It's like when the plan's wavering from what you set it out, it's like you need to recognize that what you've been doing has been working, and like you just need to be patient and stick with it and just keep doing the things.
I think honestly that is what makes this sport so unbelievably difficult. Like imagine turning up to 6 or 7 different tracks, 6 or 7 different conditions, having the luck to not get rained on, not have the track dry out, not get a loose rock in your line. Like the amount of things that are involved in this sport to do a winning race run 6 times over and dominate a season. Like madness. And like for me, how you guys feel about rain is how I feel about dust. Like for years. It's only really this year that I'm starting to try to being positive about it for a start. Like being like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not any different. And
Yeah.
not like, I'm a good bike rider. I should be fine here. And just starting with a positive mindset at least.
Yeah.
And these last few races in the dust have went like much better. Like I'm getting there, you know, compared to previous years.
Yeah.
And you guys will be the same in the rain. Like it just takes so long when you're not used to it. Like I've spent 25 years of living in the rain.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to be better in the wet than you are. Like it's just, and you're better in the dust because you spent 25 years in the dust.
What
Like
you've
it's
grown up doing.
It's not, you know, it's not hard maths. It's not rocket science. It makes perfect sense.
It just takes I feel like, as far as my journey with mud riding, it's like
my pathway.
yeah. Well, I feel like
Let's open the book.
But you need those few performances to like prove to yourself that you can do it, because it's, you know, you're stuck in that mindset where you're like, oh, it's raining. Okay, that's a wasted weekend. But yeah, when you start getting those few races and just banking them up, where you're like, well, I've had a really good performance in like really gnarly wet conditions before, so why can't I do it again? And then you just like, you get another one and then another one, and then you just keep compounding them into, and then essentially you have like, you know, that library of performances. When those conditions do arise, you're like, well, even if, you know, these aren't the conditions that I ride in most of the time, and I'm not as comfortable in them, it's like I've performed in them before, so I think
bottom line is like, I'm just a good bike rider. No matter what the conditions are, what the track is, anything, I'm a good bike rider. And it's like funny how you were saying before how everyone started saying, oh, he's only world champion because it was raining. I just would have commented and been like, I've been in the mud my whole life and it finally pays off and you pull this shit on me. It's like, dude, you like, imagine how many days you would have spent riding in the mud. I'm like, that's all work. You've all worked toward this, and it's like,
I know you honestly don't think I'd prefer to be in the sun, like waking up 20 degrees. You come home, you can't feel your feet, you're washing kit, like it sucks in the UK. Like you said, finally I woke up on race day and it was snowing at the top of the hill. I was like, this is
I've been
it.
training my whole life.
This is it. If there's ever an opportunity, this has to be it. And you still have to keep your shit together, and you still have to do the run. So like in any case like that, if the guy that wins the race is the guy that won the fucking race, like it's just the way it is. Even Thibaut's run that Leger, like he won the race, and his run was insane. His conditions were so hard, like slippy as hell. The winner's normally fucking good winner, you know what I mean? We're all insane bike
whoever's
riders.
winning at the end of the day is the best dang bike rider that day.
Exactly,
like, simple as that.
And the luck, that whether you call it luck or the weather, it doesn't matter. He still managed to perform in the conditions that he was given. He didn't bottle it, he didn't crash. So he done exactly what he had to do.
That's another thing, because
Troy
went right around when he went as well, and he crashed and blew it. And it's
Troy
won the race before, and it's like, and he had the same opportunity as Thibaut, and he blew it. So it's like
Lenzerheide as well for Troy. Rain came down. He unfortunately ended up qualifying low down because of a flat tire. Bit of bad luck. Like there's just all these things that happen that just, when your time is your time, you either step up to the plate and you perform, or you don't. Like it's.
But the thing with that flat tire thing as well, it's like, that's on him. Like, you know, I learned a long time ago that like all these excuses, no one really cares about them. At the end of the day, like you get what you get, but it's like, oh, I didn't do well because I got a flat tire. It's like, were you running inserts? Oh no, that's your fault. What pressure were you running? Oh, I was running 22. You probably should run more. Like it all comes back. Like every negative thing and positive things that happens to you, you create, or you have a part in that. I hate when people don't do well and they start blaming all this other shit, and you're like, man, that 3 minutes, that's all you. And it's like, you've set your bike up exactly how you want it. You've qualified exactly where you have, and you're racing exactly when you are. And it's like, that is all on you. And I think that's a big thing that people, like you said, we're going to get 6 goes at it, and it's all on you. Everything's on you. You got 3 minutes, go. It's I don't feel like I feel like we all deal with it well, because obviously we do really well. But looking from the outside, like that's pretty gnarly. Like I think you did a post one year when it was like our total racing for the year was like 28 minutes. And that's like
2018.
Our total income, or our total what would you call it? Like workload for the, obviously you've got qualifying practice for that, but the actual thing where we are paid for racing is 28 minutes. And like that's how many, like 7 countries.
Well, what's even gnarlier to think about is the races. So it's like, what's the season this year?
6 races,
five
I think,
races,
only.
5 or 6?
5 World Cups in a
But
World Champs.
five or 6 opportunities to prove your worth. And
you want a job next year?
Exactly.
And then like we've said, you get the rain situation. Like there's so many scenarios that come up that you just have to take on like head first. Like you don't get a choice with them. It's just the opportunities that we have are so slim and so short, and that's where it's hard to be patient when it's not going right, because you've constantly got that in the back of your head.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
You know for a fact at the end of the year the team might just slap the thing down and go, sorry, you're out. You know, like you need to go and find something else. So it's when you've got all that pressure that lands on 28 minutes, it's fuck, it's
and
insane,
it can change like that as well. Like after Leo Gang, when I crashed and didn't qualify, like obviously all these like negative stuff starts, like the season's done, overall's done, all this in my head, and then go to Leger and get the rain and get 6th, and then all the top guys and I was like, okay, we're back. It was just like that, just instantly. But it's like, it's funny how it's like it can change. Like it could change. Like imagine here, Tebow could get a flat tire first race, no points.
It could
that's the thing.
We've been.
I keep asking Loris. I'm like, is the overall doable? And he's like, well, like Tebow's basically a race out. And I'm like, dude, one flat tire in a race run, you're right there.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's not impossible. Like,
no, like,
and then once you get that mindset, it's like when you're not when you're chasing, I feel like it's easier because you're putting everything in. When you're being chased, you're like, I can't fuck up.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Watching him at World Champs, somebody said to me at the bottom, like, I can't help it, because Tebow was not riding like Tebow at World Champs. When I seen him at Val di Sole, every time I seen him, I was like, he just doesn't seem, he doesn't seem his usual self. And he crashed twice in his race run. So you do wonder, I've never been in a title fight, and obviously I hope to be in one day, but if you're in that position where you're rolling into the last round or two with a number 1 board on your bike, I can't even imagine the pressure of that. Like you say, when you're being raced, to then have a mindset to keep attacking is obviously ideal, because it's
that's way safer to be
much safer. As soon as you switch and go, fuck right, I'm a points out, all I need to do is qualify. Basically all he has to do is qualify and finish 2 races and he wins the thing. So like, do you go to that mindset?
That fucks you so
it
bad.
does fuck you, that's what I mean.
Well, and I can imagine being in a title fight, unless you're just absolutely going for it and you're like, I want the rainbow stripes too, which obviously does to a certain extent. But I could imagine being in a title fight, you get to world champs where it's like you're doing this race. Like obviously he's more focused on the overall. So it's like you're at the gnarliest track the gnarliest track I've ever raced in my World Cup career. And I think a lot of people would say the same. With an extra day of practice, just such a gnarly weekend overall, and then you're at a race that's not directly
completely void
it's like you're essentially, you're just risking your life for a race that's like where you're thinking on the overall and you're like, I'm here at this race, like doing all this stuff, and like obviously the rainbow stripes is huge
and you're going last as well, but
it's just like I could imagine being in that scenario where I'm like, man, like I'm worried about the overall, like I just want to get, like, this weekend it's an opportunity to get hurt, ruin the overall, this and that.
But then as soon as you think like that, that's when you crash.
For sure.
That's
absolutely.
But I'm just saying, like, those kind of things I could see most definitely creeping into your mind.
That's the thing. We're sat here though, and the fans think they know us because they follow us on Instagram and stuff. You will never ever understand what each one of us are thinking in our heads. And Tebow's in that. Nobody's ever been in his exact position before. Nobody's ever had his parents. Nobody's ever had his upbringing. He is completely unique. Nobody knows where his mindset is sat right now. So you just can't judge. That's what's so cool about the sport as well. You just sat back, you're like, I have no fucking idea what's going to happen here. This could be unbelievable. Or it could just go, you just don't know.
It's cool to watch. Like, I remember here in 2019, like, dude, I remember watching that
insane race.
I remember just watching the end of it, and I'm just like, this is so cool. Like, we've got like these 2 guys that have battled all year that have both like stepped up each time and like matched each other. So you've got that going on. You got Charlie coming in the mix as well, being in there messing it up a lot. So you got one of your mates that is doing really well in a home country. You've got these 2 battles going on, and then you've got a complete dark horse, Danny Hart, that decided the whole thing. And decided in the last minute of the race. So a whole year got condensed down to 1 minute. And he was like, everyone thought it was over because he was down by like almost a second. Then he pulled it back at like 2 seconds in the last minute. And you're like, what the fuck? That was, I remember watching that, man, and I was just like, that race and that whole like story ending was so cool to see, and just to be a part of that, like be in it and watching it, you're like, this is cool.
That's the thing. I feel like over the last few seasons, like I've just gained such a respect for the sport, and it's like, man, like people don't realize like the top 60 dudes on a finals day are so dang good. And like just thinking back on like my short career from like when I started to now, I'm like, man, there are so many good guys. Like, I feel like, it used to be, where there was like that kind of top top 20, top 30 that were kind of that level up. And then now it's like, man, everyone is so good.
Yeah,
and then
it's dense.
yeah.
That's the thing. You stop at the side of the track to look at a line. It's the worst thing you can do at a World Cup.
Doesn't matter what plate number or whatever, they come through and
number
you're just
board
like,
100 comes through and makes you feel like you're crawling.
Yeah.
And you're sat at the side of the track going, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like,
dude, I can't stop Sunday or race morning. I hate stopping on the side of the track because everyone is going so fast and just like, all right. Especially when you see people that are like, I qualified so much quicker than you and you're going that fast. And you're like, what am I doing? Like, what's going on here?
You can't see yourself. You see a video and it just doesn't compare. Like, you just
it doesn't make.
It's just a war. It's a battle. It's warfare with your own head for a whole week. Which is why, again, this race this week it's never been done. We've never had 6 days back to back. Like, are we going to get 2 different tracks? We're not very sure. Maybe one similar run.
Not really. I walked it the other day, and I think the top's going to be slightly altered for both of them, and the bottom's going to be slightly altered, but the middle's just all the same.
So there you go. I mean, it's a completely unique event with, like, you know, all these fucking things that come.
Honestly, I like it. Like, I haven't done it yet, but I like the idea. Like
I love this stuff, man.
I like it.
No, but you think about like coming to America, like it is a big thing to move and come bring it all here. So I'm like getting 2 shots. It's almost like not takes the pressure off, but it's just like it feels worthwhile being here for that, like that amount of time. Like I think it'd be cool to have 2 completely separate tracks would be ideal, but it's probably going to make the 4th day, like if you have the race and the 4th day, if it's the same track, a lot of people can just kind of chill.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm like, obviously it would be better the more variance there is between the 2 tracks, but it's like if the second track is quite similar to the first one, at least that 4th day you can, you know, do a few runs, ride the new sections, get that dialed in, but then the rest of the track you're like, I just did 3 days on it.
And that's it. Like, it's a big thing because I've only done like national champs and Oceania's champs back to back, and that was similar. That was like 6 days, and it's weird to build up to race speed and then drop back it down and then build it up again. That was weird because you feel so shit on the track the next day because like race pace is like a different speed, and you can't just go straight back to that. You've got to build back up again. But then when you build back up, you just feel terrible because you're like, I was gapping that and landing there, and now I can't even get over this. Like, you're like, oh shit, I got to build up all over again. But
I think it'll be good though. I mean, I feel like myself, like my personality, like I like kind of type 2 fun. Where it's like when you're in it, you're like, this is brutal. But then you look back and you're like, that was pretty sick. Like, even like thinking the world champs, like how our entire team every morning we were just like, man, we are so smoked. Like such a gnarly track, extra day of practice. And we were like, we knew like no one's waking up in the morning being like, oh, I feel awesome today. Like everyone's like, had a crash, you know, legs are sore. Like it's just the way it goes. And like, you just need to.
People can't grasp or like understand how gnarly that track actually is. Me and Rico just hit a stop on the side. Was that like day 2 or something? And we just stopped and we're just like,
we just sat down with the GoPro, like, what is this?
We're just like trying to figure out a line, and we're just because we want to miss these holes, and we're just sitting there. And then Greg comes past, just like going way too fast, and stops. And we always yell "Dad" at him when he rides past, and he just started laughing and stopped. And then he's like, "What are you guys doing sitting here?" And then this guy from the side of the track's like, "They've been sitting there for like 20 minutes." Just calls us out, and we're like, "We're not going to deny that."
No, but even Greg came past, and it, to be fair, looked like a bit of a passenger. Like he was going so fast, but he was just loose as hell. So when he burst out laughing, he was like, "Yo, I stopped because of laughing," and we were like, "No, you didn't. You stopped because you can't."
You wanted an excuse to stop.
Don't lie. That was a perfect excuse.
Because that part, like where the rock wall is, that's where that's the first spot when I'm like, oh shit. Like that's when your hands start to go. Up until there, you're pretty good, and then you get to there and you're like, whoa.
What, before the big step down?
Yeah. That like awkward tight bit, I reckon right there, and then you got that triple double thing. When I land that, I'm just like, oh.
See, it was for me. It was at like 5 seconds later, you do the step down, and then you have that like 2 seconds of that straightaway before you just hit the roughest thing ever. Like
PTSD, man.
You're just like. You hit that step down, and then you're going to that next section. You're like, I am so cooked, and there's so much track left.
We've been talking this about coach, so like the lack of science in our sport is pretty disturbing actually. Like we have no idea. Chris he's been reading some papers recently, hit me with some stuff where he's like the vibrations and the impacts that you take on a downhill bike. Okay, like motocross is so gnarly because they do it for so much longer, like 40-minute motos 2 times a day. But like they have double our suspension, the dirt's really soft, the bumps form very differently. Like we are so square edge, and I think almost bike development's like so, it's just been the same for so long. We keep going stiffer and more progressive. It just makes it even harsher. And then you have 6 days of just slamming things, you know, like you get no rest from it, and you're sat at night just like, you know, when you get those muscle twitches, like things are just tweaking everywhere, and you're lying there like, is this really worth it?
I'm
like,
geeking.
you're just tweaking, and there's nothing you can do about it. Chris is like, honestly, just ice bath and eat carbs, and you're like, come on, there must be something
I need more
else.
than that.
You got to give me a better thing to feel good.
You're gonna have to give me more. And
Well, especially too the way that just how you look at a World Cup weekend, like it's gnarly and there's not a lot of rest. Like you think of the first day, how gnarly that is. You get entire days of practice, time training that goes till like 5:15. By the time you get back to the pits, get your stuff off, spin, you know, go for an ice bath or whatever. It's like you get back to the place and it's like 7 o'clock. You haven't even eaten dinner, and then.
Yeah, dude.
No, the 4 days of an actual World Cup is full on. Like like you said, our work time is like 28 minutes, but the months and months and months of prep you do, and then the actual days of work, they are brutal. Like I feel like I've got a fucking hard job when you're doing those 4 days, but like you say, you get a good result at the end of it. You look back and you're like,
yeah, it's worth it. Dude, Martin,
wasn't so bad.
when I was like, I was talking to Martin Whiteley about this, and he's like, you don't get paid to race, you get paid for all the stuff building up to a race. Racing's a bit you.
Well, that's the way I like to look at it. It's like you get to a race, like that should be like the cherry on top, like the easy part, where it's like, I mean, you've just, like I normally start training in November, so it's like, you know, you've had, you know, you 6-8 months of work at home before you even get to there. It's like you get there, and then it's like, this should be the part where you get to enjoy it and like see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, I think that's when you like inner kid needs to come out and think back to be like, I would pay thousands of dollars for a bike. I would convince my parents to drive me hours just so I could race my bike. And now suddenly, because that all gets paid for and covered, it's just like, oh, we've got to, like, not complaining about it, but doesn't have the same kind of taste as it used to have. When you like, realistically, like when you get to a place like this, you should be like, I get to go. Like, how good's that feeling when you just want to go ride your bike?
Oh,
like,
gotcha.
You just like don't care about result, racing, anything. You're just like, I'm just going to go have fun. And that's like something that I like, you need to consciously be aware of, like, hey, look what I get to do, look where I get to do it, this is fucking awesome. And then results always come. I mean, even like we're saying, the aches and pains of a race week, like when your week's going well and you're super confident, when do you ever feel aches and pains? You're just on a cloud, you're floating through it, like it's easy. Your legs aren't sore.
I'm skipping the ice bath today. I don't even need it. Like,
I'm gonna get some ice cream.
And then you're racking down in 40th, 50th place when you want to be top 10, and it's just your body feels heavy and it just sucks. It's honestly so crazy.
I mean, it's at the end of the day too, we need to sit back and be like, as tough as we think we have it, man, we live such a blessed life. Oh. So
even this morning I was sitting out there in the sun sipping on a coffee, and like we were in Europe like 2 days ago, you know? And it's all paid, like you say, paid for. You jump on a flight, you bomb over here, and you're in a sick accommodation, amazing view, sipping on coffee, like perfectly
everyone's
able,
here hanging
breathing
out,
fresh air, everybody's happy. You're like, it actually doesn't get any better. But like you say, it's when you're so focused on that performance, it's so hard to then allow yourself a cut off to go and enjoy where you are, what you're doing. But it is important. You need to
super important.
You need to do it.
Because how often do you catch yourself out and you'll be like, something will come out that's like barely even an inconvenience, like, oh, we can't get into the hotel until this time or something. You're like, oh, and you're like, it just seems like such a big deal. And then you think back and you're like, oh, what? I can't get into the hotel that I didn't even pay for. And it's like for an hour, like something, but it's like, I do feel like you catch yourself. I catch myself all the time. Like I know the other day something happened, which was like so insignificant. And I was like, oh, and then I like stopped and I was like, who cares? Like, who gives a shit? Like, it's all still going to play out good. It's just one little inconvenience, but
there's so many things you can look at like that. Like even I was thinking about this when I was gonna, like, every time we come here we lose our bags, but luckily this time we were on one direct flight, so I was like, surely the chances are pretty slim. But then P lost his bag, so I was like, you can definitely lose your bag. And then I was sat there getting fired up before I even left, imagining that my bags go missing, and then I was like, wait a minute, I might smell for a few days. Like,
why does it matter?
That's it.
I'll go buy some new clothes.
I'm not gonna die. Like, it's gonna be fine. I can still eat. I'm gonna have a place to go to sleep. Like, it's, you really putting life into perspective. Yeah, so important.
I mean, I need to give you credit for the plane flight over here. Reece somehow misplaced somehow Reece ended up losing one of his custom painted helmets in the airport in Zurich. And like, obviously was bummed about it, as he should be. But like, I was looking at Reece handling it and being like, man, if that was me, I don't think I would be as laid back as he is right now. Like, I got to give you props for how you handle that. Cause like,
but dude, I always say this to people, would you rather have a lost helmet and feel like shit, or just have a lost helmet and feel good?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's your choice.
Like you
it's
said,
your
it's
choice.
your choice. You might as well just, if the helmet's gone, I went outside, I tried to find it, it's not there.
Yeah.
There's nothing else I can do about it. Like you said, you can sit and think, oh, it's really bad, but it's just going to make the rest of your day really bad. So once I'd convinced myself it was gone, the next thing actually was there was custom cheek pads in it that I didn't put in my other helmet. So like I got over it. I was like, it's fine. And I was sat there looking at the other helmet and I was like, fuck, my cheek pads. So I was sat for about another hour like, oh, it's really bad. And then I slapped myself again and was like, fuck it, it's fine. Let's figure it out.
Oh, dude, that's funny. It's funny how stuff like that will sometimes like work out better in the long run. Like this is like just a random little example. Like my and this is just because I'm lucky on a good team, but like my GoPro got stolen from Leger, and I was like, I was like bummed. My backpack and my GoPro got stolen. I was like so bummed. And then lucky enough for me, Patrice is like, I've got a 9 you can have, and I was just like, I know that's like lucky for me because I'm on the team, but I was just like, could look at it as such a negative, but obviously, and I'll probably just claim it in insurance and whatever, but you could just dwell on that and get so, like, I was a bit annoyed because I hate people stealing stuff, but it's just like, you can look at that as being such a negative and dwell on it, or you can just like, next thing, move forward. Like as soon as you accept what's happened and you realize you can't change the outcome of it, then you just start working towards something better. And I was like, okay, let's like just erase it from your memory and next thing. Unless you're doing something dumb and you just need to learn a lesson from it. Did you leave it somewhere, or like how'd you lose it?
We have no idea because we took 2 vehicles there.
There was 2 vehicles, but we were being very friendly. We were being very team environment-esque. We were like just got there efficient as hell. Everybody just grabbed any bag, doesn't matter it was yours, just help a brother out. Yeah. So we pulled all the bags out, laid them all on the tarmac, and just kind of picked any bag up that was in front of you and put it on a trolley.
Yeah.
So we didn't actually have like Kate
like
Charlie's helmet.
No one had their bag.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's all.
So nobody was keeping an eye on it. So I was holding 2 helmet bags, or put 2 helmet bags in a trolley. So I was like, sweet, that I had to. Yeah. So surely if Charlie had one, as long as he put one in a trolley, we're good.
Yeah.
Got inside and I was looking around at helmets. So I was like, I'm definitely missing one here. So we got checked in and shit. And I thought, if anything, it's been left outside, ran outside, it wasn't there. So we genuinely have no idea where it went. But
someone might have snagged it.
I think we left it out on the pavement and somebody might have snagged it.
Grabbed it.
There was a lot of people with like cycling tops and stuff that probably knew what was going on. But you hate to think somebody would actually do that, but who knows? It's gone now.
People do it.
I don't know. What's someone going to do with a custom painted
rocket
Volvo helmet?
Wear it in the wear it in the hood, man. Look pimp.
Who knows?
Speaking about the whole team thing, how is the dynamic on the whole team? Because I think it's I'm low key on the team. I don't know. The paperwork hasn't. The paperwork hasn't come through yet, but I'm definitely part of the team.
Waiting on the offer.
Yeah, yeah. Me and Sandra, we've talked. My people are talking to your people. You guys just come downstairs and I'm just like sleeping on the pool table with all the podcast gear. And you're like, is Dean not going?
Just keeping the members rolling.
Yeah.
No, I think we actually talk about this a lot, and it's like we are so blessed to have the team dynamic that we do, where literally every single person, like, everyone gets along.
Yeah.
You see a lot, there's a lot of teams in the paddock where it's like, like, oh, these 2 guys are homies, but like he doesn't really like this guy on the team, or you know what I mean? There's always that division and kind of animosity within the teams. And they all still function and get the job done. But yeah, we don't have like any of those quarrels within the team, which is amazing. And
such a different variety of people as well. Like not only riding styles, but like backgrounds, personalities, everything. I always think that's like, you think about World Cup, how many different cultures, people, ideas, everything is just mixed together. And then you've got to compete against each other. And then yet everyone's still just homies. And it's like, how is that? It's such a mixing pot of people. And it's just like, it all works somehow.
The challenge of getting 15 people in a room from chances are 15 different countries,
Yeah.
15 different backgrounds, and having them all get on amazingly.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. And that's one of the things I think team managers really, really overlook. Like we've said, finicky athletes, when it is like, all it is tiny mental percentages, and you just think it's okay because he's got good results and he's got good results. If we put them together, that's 2 good sets of results. This is going to be amazing.
It's a simple thugonomics.
It doesn't work like that. Like it almost starts as we're a rolling family on the road for six months. You know, we live together. We have to share bedrooms a lot of the time. You eat together. You travel. We're on the gondola together. You practice together. We're basically brothers. I spend more time with this team than I do with my sisters at home.
Yeah.
Like you live together. So if you don't, that's almost step one, is finding people that get along together and that can work together for the greater good. Like it's life, really, isn't it? You have to get on like that.
Because I always think about that if you're on a team and then they're like, oh, we're looking at this rider. But if you're like, that's not going to gel.
Yeah,
like that's really not going to
yeah.
work.
It's like, why don't team managers sit down at the end of every year and you have a team meeting and be like, right guys, you know, like I know it's not that simple all the time, but it's almost what needs to be done. You can't just grab a cat, throw it in a room of mice, and it's, you know, it's not gonna, like, you need to be smart with it. Like it is difficult. It's really difficult.
It's cool, like how, like when I'm leaving for a trip, I'm not like, oh, I gotta go hang out with these guys. I'm like, I get to go see the bros. Like it's been so long, and like I can't wait to like see the antics that happen, like all the good times. And I mean, it was, I mean, you know, from Intense, like it was the same thing. Like we were such a good, tight knit family.
Yeah,
and
easy.
it was just, everything just worked.
Yeah,
it does. It makes it so much easier. Like it's all, like we said, it's difficult when it's not going well. So when you can add a group of people together that you really get on with and you're excited to go and see, and you're not sat there looking at other teams going, fuck, the grass looks way greener over there. Because then, like you said, that's another massive mental switch. Like you need to be so happy. And this is one of the first, I think this is the first team in my career that have, when it comes to race season, I'm like, I can't wait to get on the plane and go and see the boys. Like it's never been like that for me. So yeah, these last 3 years, it just gets better and better and better. And we were saying this last night with Loris joining the team, like him and Pierre, the 2 new people coming into a group of 14 or 15 that have been together for 3 years. It's intimidating for them, and I don't think you really take that into consideration. And he's just like been slowly cracking open this trip because we've been spending so much time together, and he's quite shy. And now he's coming out of his shell, and we've been, like last night, we're having such a laugh. Like it's really, really good.
I guess the language barrier is a massive part of that as well to come into play.
Yep.
Because I know that, like, for me, I love my team, but the language barrier is like, it is a tricky thing to like really connect with someone.
Absolutely,
it is from another country, but
well, and you had a good perspective on it too, because we've talked about this before, and it's like not only the language barrier, but I'm sure it takes a lot of energy from Loris to just constantly sit there and talk to us in a language that's not his home language.
Dude, I got so much respect for that, because like I don't know any French, and I hate it. And I need to learn, because it's like I could bitch and moan as much as like, oh, like, because they all speak English. So I'm like, I'm the one that hasn't tried here. And like, how can I be annoyed at them, especially when you're in France? It's like you're in their country speaking English, and then you get annoyed because everyone's speaking French. It's just like, man, learn some French. And then but it is it's so tricky when you're like, okay, you've got to join this team and they're going to speak a completely different language, and just the brain power to comprehend and actually understand everything that's going on while you're also trying to compete is like, and then beat yourself on top of that. And like, I couldn't imagine how hard it would to be yourself in another language.
Well, exactly.
It's hard to be yourself in English.
It's funny. I've started to do that a lot this year. Like with Chris, he can speak French. So I'll say to Chris, like, what's kind of Loris's personality in French? Like, because I can imagine, like you've just said it, trying to put my personality into French, you just sound like a robot. But so like, I can imagine for him it's the same. Like, we don't actually know Loris. We only know the English side of him. Like, so it is something you need to really think about a lot when you're speaking to something like Thomas Stack. I was lucky to have, when I was on that team, Paul with me from home, who was Scottish. So it's like I had one person that I could go to, and it was insane how much time me and him would spend together. And Thomas was amazing, so funny, great in English, and they tried really hard to speak English. But that was the first year where I was like, wow, that is a thing. Like, being in that language barrier can really change.
Oh, it's massive,
really
man.
change the outcome.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a reason I probably come and like linger in the Trek pits a lot, because like, if everyone's speaking French, and even if I did know a bit of French, it's still so hard because they speak obviously so fast. Like when you get a group of people, imagine 5 people all speaking French really quick, and like, and I'm just like, even if I could comprehend a fair bit of it, like even because Marshy, he can understand a fair bit of French. He can't speak that much, but he can understand a fair bit. Even he's just like, it's so fast and so hectic. It's just like, it's too much. So I'll be there and I'm like, I'm going to bounce.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a massive thing that I think there's another thing people don't think about. Like you see this small portion of a race weekend and all that. And like you said, not only the track, but then the team and then all these other things that come into play. Even the food, like you think about, we just came to America.
That's it,
and how different the food is in America to how different the food is in Europe.
Yeah.
Like even just like coming from Switzerland where like you buy a bit of cheese and it's like 50 euros for this tiny little bit. Then you come to America and it's just like you buy whatever
50
you
cent.
Yeah, exactly.
Like book of it.
Oh, and just like the difference in like the countries we actually travel to. Because like everyone always compares this to motocross, which it's like they just say, for example, when you go, oh, we only have 10 races or 8 races, and everyone's like, oh, but motocross has 20. I'm like, yeah, but it's all in America.
Yeah.
And they fly home after every weekend. I was like, I haven't been home for coming up 4 months, and we travel to how many different countries that speak how many different languages in how many different, like,
the different beds. Like sleep's one of the most important thing ever. The pillows in Europe are ass.
Take your own. Do you not take your own pillow?
Yes,
He
dude.
did.
I've lost 3 of
all.
them. I've left all 3 I've ever bought.
It was so funny because I could forget pillow everywhere I go now. And someone said to me the other day, but isn't it annoying to travel with? And I was like, what do you mean? It's a pillow. I sleep on it when I travel. And then when I get there, I put it on my bed and sleep on it again. It's like the best thing to travel with.
It's like a teddy bear, really. Isn't it? Like you need a pillow.
You bring it on the
sleep's
plane with you?
Important.
Yeah, for sure. I got 4 seats on this plane, put my pillow down, slept like the whole time. So like I'm just,
Honestly, a pillow is number 1 thing to travel with for sure. Jimmy's crib's got 2 of mine now, and I'm going to go back and bust his ass next year. Get him back.
Who's Jimmy?
The guy at Leo Gang.
The mouse catcher. No, it is. There's so many factors. And then again, you say that language barrier, there's only so many teams that you look at where you're like all English or like all speak English like as a first language. Well, even so then you're like, there's 20 guys want to be on those 3 teams. So it makes it even more stressful again because that's where you want to be.
Well, you look at Commensal as well. They were obviously a majority French team and like everyone's comfortable. Yeah. Everyone speaks French. I think they've got Canadian junior.
One Canadian junior, yeah.
So does he speak any French?
I don't know.
But it's just like, I know when I think George was writing for them and he even told me, he's like, it's so French. And I feel like I'm feeling a bit of that now. It's like, and it's just like that thing where it's like, if you're on a team where it's majority English or majority French or whatever you speak, it just makes everything just that much smoother. Like you feel more part of the whole thing. So, but
definitely.
It's a factor people do not look at, but
if you couldn't understand your own parents at home, like how fed up would you be? You know, your siblings at home, like we've said, it's a rolling family for 7 months of the year,
and then shit's just lost in translation as well.
Communication's like number 1. You miss out on stuff. And that's
the thing, like you said, factor. Like sitting down and having like a team meeting is something that I think we haven't really done that this year, and I really think like that should be like after every race, because I think a few teams do stuff like that. We spoke
about this,
after the race night, we all sit down. What can we do better? What do we do wrong? And like just sit down, even if it's half an hour. Everyone gets go around the circle, put your hand up. What did you like? What didn't you like? Write it down, work it out. It's like sounds like a real basic thing, but we haven't done it. You guys probably haven't done something similar, but. We're
lucky enough that we're all pretty vocal. Like, if something's wrong, I'm pretty good at standing up and being like, I don't like this. Or we'll discuss it. You'll find 2 or 3 other people on the team that agree, and then you're like, right, let's take this to management. Just make sure you're not the only one.
You just like slide that in. Just
Chuck will be like, nah, Reece, and I'm like, fuck, right, okay.
How funny is that when you think something, you're like trying to get people on your side, but you don't want to just straight up ask them. So you're like, so what do you guys feel about the new masseuse? And then Chuck's like, he sucks. Like, he does suck.
It was like I was cruising through Instagram last night and I found a rider and we're like, it's a shame it's a bit of a dick. And he was like, nah, he's good. And I was like, I think he's good. Just like putting the feelers out, see what Chuck thinks first.
It literally went like, he like pulled up a picture and he was like, we don't like this guy, right? And I was like, nah, he's sick. Reece is like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool.
I did think he was sick. To be fair, it was a motocross rider. It wasn't anybody in downhill.
I was like, who is it? I wasn't going to ask
that. It was a motocross rider. So yeah, I asked it. I thought he was cool, but I had a feeling in the back of my head that Chuck had said he wasn't cool. Like he was a bit of a dick in the past. So when I was watching his video, and I was thinking in my head, this is sick. Like, he's got cool style.
Who's the guy?
So I was going to ask him, GB, Justin Marshall.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, he's looking rad.
Do you find that crazy? I always find this funny because there's like motocross riders that I look at, I'm like, don't like you. Like you've got your favourites, you've got people you don't like. And you think about it, we've made that decision of...
You don't know them.
Exactly. Of these little Instagram clips and these little interviews and all that.
Yeah, I saw this or heard this or this guy
exactly,
said this about him.
And your whole... your how you view that person has been broken down into these little interactions online. You've never met them in person, never chatted to them. And then it's like, I like him, I don't like him. And then I think about us, we're broken down the same way to people. And it's just like... What do you do to be liked, and what do you like? Things that make people like you also be hated by other people, and such like I think this like I know now that you can't play that game of like what people want. You've got to be yourself, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't, and who cares? But it is a funny thing how it's like little tiny things can determine. Like it's so funny when I'll do something and then you get someone be like, "Oh yeah, man, I wasn't sure about you, but now like no, you're a real straight shooter. I like you." I'm like, that's what it took. It took like what I did a whip or something, or like I did like said something that it's like, and then it can change people's minds. So.
And there's the amount of times it's out of context as well. I've just been calling Instagram and the internet in general now to me is just a toxic wasteland. Like
it's disgusting.
I want nothing to fucking do with it. Like it's a horrible place.
Did you see the pink bike hate I got? Did you see it?
No.
I saw your story that you posted. I didn't go look at it. I didn't want to go there.
I got like full like. Not as bad as Amory with the cornrows thing, but I got shit canned on Pink Bike because and it was so random. It was in the results of Lenzerheide, and I was like, if all the places. So anyway, someone tagged me and put up a story and tagged me in it. I was like, what's this? So I wake up after the race the next morning, go on Pink Bike, scroll down. The first comment on the results is, Dean Lucas doesn't believe in COVID. He thinks it's a hoax and we're all sheep for following the government's orders. Go everyone else. And he's like, I don't know how his sponsors can allow him to speak like this. And like, I was like, what?
What is that based off of?
I put up a thing on my story saying how healthy eating, exercise, connecting, being out in the sun, all this should be part of the solution to fixing COVID.
Yeah.
Not like, I'm all like vaccines are fine, but I think you should look at
you're vaccinated.
Exactly. Dude, apparently someone in America commented underneath this is just like, he keeps preaching about how he's unvaccinated and convincing other people not to get vaccinated. I'm like, I was like, this is just lies now. Like, it's all lies. But then, dude, people like jumped on the bandwagon and were just like, obviously read this guy's comment and thought that was like the truth. And then they were like, fuck Dean Lucas and like douche Lucas and all this stuff. Like gnarly, man. Like heaps of people just roasted me. And I was like, oh, this isn't great. Like I was like, I found it funny because it was lies and I was like promoting health. So I'm like, I'm not going to backpedal off promoting health. But it was just, dude, I couldn't believe like the amount of hate. And then a few people backed me up and then they got shredded by these other people and like just angry people. And like this one guy that just kept posting stuff about it. What did he say? I got compared to Jake Paul as well. Don't know if that was an insult or a compliment. It was so random. But one guy like...
That must have been a horrible 20 minutes for you.
Dude, I was just looking at one guy...
You should have just dipped out.
I do. Honestly, it did make me laugh just because of like when you see like lies and you're just like, I'm not even going to try and defend myself here because there's no point fighting with idiots. But one guy... pretty much said like, don't come home, like Australia's better off without you and all this stuff. And I was like, that's harsh. And then afterwards, because I did a story on Instagram saying like, I do believe in it. This is what I meant, and reposted what I posted.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then he commented again. He's like, he's backpedaling now, and like he's going back on what he said and all this stuff. And then he like tagged me in Pink Bike comments, and he's just like, what do you have to say? And like listed all these things. And I'm like, so now you want to have a discussion with me after you've just told me to like get fucked and that I shouldn't come home to Australia. And now you just be like, but what do you think about this? And I was like, why would I talk to you when like, that's the biggest thing.
Well, that's the thing. At the end of the day, all those people that are trying to stir you up, like
they just want
a response.
They want attention. Yeah. They want to grab you and this. But this is, I find it so crazy on like social media, Instagram, and all this stuff where it's like someone will like message you and just call, like if they don't agree with something and call you an idiot or just insult you, and then you'd be like, let's have a conversation about it. Why do you feel that way? And they won't do it. They won't have a debate with you about how they feel. They'll just throw anger and insults at you, and then you actually try and have a discussion with them and they just like back off. And it's like, I always find that funny because I was going to message the guy and be like, what's your phone number? I'll call you and we can talk about this. And I know he would not call me.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to have a discussion with me. He just wants to say this. And I'm like, that's the thing. It's like, if you can't even have a simple debate over a topic, because like I get proven wrong all the time, but I get proven wrong because I talk about it and I'm like, hey, because the thing, if you can put your ego down and go, hey, I was wrong, that's a better way of looking at it. I'm open to that.
Yeah.
But if you just go, I'm completely right, there's no other way, fuck off. Like
it takes a bigger person to like you've just said, let your ego down and be like, fair enough, you've got me.
Yeah.
You've taught me something. Like I'm now wiser and moving forward. Like it's people that are just arrogant with, oh well, it's my way or no way. Like people like that. It's just
and that's the thing now. It's just the cancel culture. People are just looking for a reason to just get fired up and just try and ruin someone.
And it doesn't feel great when you do get proven wrong, but at the same time, it's like you learned something new. You have been taught a new thing, and you can't learn something without first maybe like doing it wrong. So it's like with everything you do, before you get it right, you normally get it wrong. So it's like accepting that and then being like, oh, okay. Because I've had a few times where I've really thought strongly about something, and then someone's brought a new point of view, and I go, oh, okay. But if you can't even have the discussion and you just go, you're wrong, I'm right, piss off, it's just like you're not going to move forward with that. Like you're not going to go forward. And I felt like with those, like the comments, I was just like, these guys don't want to have a discussion about it. They are so cemented in their ways of thinking. And I don't know, like people get that way by, I don't know, trauma of some sort. Like I'm sure these people probably had something to do with COVID's affected them in a negative way. So now they're talking.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tragic pandemic. Like,
and that's the thing.
If
I was preaching saying it was a hoax, I would get annoyed at me. I would get annoyed at someone in a public figure that was saying it's a hoax, and like just say my brother died or something else. So I get the anger behind it, but like having no evidence or no truth to it.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like if you're calling someone out for doing something wrong, it's all good. But it needs to be a two-way street where you can discuss it and then come to the point where someone's like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like, oh, maybe I made a mistake or whatever, or oh, like I can see the way I can see your perspective on it now, and like I can understand what you're feeling. But yeah, it needs to be a two-way street.
Yeah. And then even like have some evidence. That's the other thing. Everyone kept asking, can you link what he said? Can you link like what did he say? Can you link it? And nothing. I was like, if you're gonna drag me through the dirt, at least attach the horse that's dragging me. But you had like they had nothing, and then I reposted the thing I posted, and then people use that to defend me more, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like it's like I say what I said or whatever. But like you said, the internet's it's a
toxic wasteland. The amount I feel so bad as well when like kids and stuff will message you. You'll have it 100 times. They'll just say like hi, and then you'll jump on. But sweet kids, 2 minutes to reply to this, and it might make his day. And you'll say hey, and the next one, can you follow me?
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Like,
don't get me started.
Yeah. I don't know how to reply to that because you don't know who the kid is at the end. If he's been bullied at school, like if a follow would just make his day. But fuck, I can't just sit on Instagram all day following people to make them happy. Like the culture needs to change where you're judged on your number. Like I can't believe we're still talking about it. Kids are getting down about it. It's so bad.
I always say to kids, and I do it in person now. I ask them, why do you want me to follow you? And they don't really have an answer. I don't know why. It's an ego thing to show, hey, Dean Lucas follows me, and they get to show their friend. But I'm like, why do you want me to follow you, and what do you get out of it? And most of the time they have no proper answer for it because they haven't thought about it. But I'm just like, but what actually do you get out of it? Like I'm right here in person. Like obviously you admire me in some way for what I do. Don't you want to ask how I got here? Don't you want to ask how I train? Don't you ask what I eat? There's so many other things you could ask, but you go straight for can you follow me?
Yeah, take a bit of knowledge from it instead of just a follow. Like a follow is not going to get you very far in life. You're not going to look back and when you're 50 years old, you're lying ill in hospital and this is it, it's happening. You're not going to be like, oh God, I'm so glad Dean followed me, man. Like it's just, that's not how it works.
Stupid,
like people need to understand how pathetic and small your telephone actually is and what's on there. Like your life is not on there. Get off it, put it down, and look outside the window. Like that's where the happiness is going to come from. And what I always say to fans when they come to the race, especially kids, is thank you so much for coming. Like our sport needs to be seen in person. Leave your phone at home. Come and watch us. Come and see us in the pits. Come and ask us a question. Like that's so much more genuine than just can I get a photo, run off, post on Instagram. It's cool and we get it. It's we're not dogging on anybody, but that's the cooler thing to me, is like, come to the race, see us, come in
Just
person,
be present,
be present and actually see what we do and suck some knowledge up that way, watch us, and if you can, obviously not everybody's fortunate enough to be able to do that, especially at the moment with COVID and stuff, but if things open up, come to the races, like come and see us, because that's where the cool shit happens.
And have a proper conversation with us.
Come and have like, I'll happily chat, I'll stand outside the pit, especially at Fort William, man. It's so busy there. And I will do my best to stand outside the pit for as long as I can and talk to people. If you've made the effort to come and see me, like you said, we're showmen, you know, that's kind of what we do. We're
entertainers.
I'll happily stand there and talk to you. And the amount of kids that'll go away with massive, they can't even talk to you sometimes. They're just sat looking at you like shaking.
And you think back to when you were that kid and like how much just having a chat would like actually mean to you. I always try and get down on their level as well. Like, I'm talking to a young kid, like kneel down and talk to them like level to level. And then just like, I always tell them about when I met Sam Hill and I was like stunned. I couldn't talk. I was and then I was just like, I tell them that story and they start to laugh and like, oh, he was me. I was you.
That's it.
We're all like, it's just
we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all strange as hell and we're all lost as hell. Like that is the reality.
We just ride bikes.
Nobody's got it dialed. We're all faking it.
Oh, dude. And another thing with the follow thing, it's like they're asking for something, and I've learned that if you go to someone and ask for something, they always put their walls up. But if you give them something, like if you're a kid, message me and tell me a story about how you got into riding, or say, hey, I drew this picture, or hey, like I've got this photo, like, oh, just something like that's the thing. It's so much easier to get something out of someone if you give them something first. And I always say, like, kind of a weird thing to compare it to, but if you ever see a girl you like, give her your number. Don't ask for her number, because as soon as you try and take something from her, she's going to put up her walls and be defensive. You give her your number. She's got the power. She can make the decision. And if she likes you, she's going to call you. If she doesn't, you know, you don't put her in this awkward situation and try and get something out of it. But that's the same. Like, kids will come up to me and be like, "Can I have a jersey?" And you're like, "Why? Like, why would?" Okay, so you just come up to me. You haven't, like, imagine if you came up to me like, "Hey, Dean, like, it's so good to meet you. I've been following you for ages. I remember when you got this result. I remember when you did this." Like, oh, you're interested in me. You know the facts. You know me. Yeah. You've given me, I guess, a sense of like.
It's a personal touch.
It's personal, yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, you get me, you know me, and you're like, oh man, it'd be so cool if I get a jersey, and you'd be like, okay, why not? But if you just come up and say, give me a jersey, I'm like, you haven't even said my name, man. Like, and it's just that thing. It's just like, if you can give someone to something to someone before you ask for something, they're so much more likely to give you something.
I made a comment about that on after a race, I think, actually, is like having fans that support you when you're on your bad days. It's a similar thing. The amount of kids that are at a finish area that just want your shit because you've done well that weekend. They don't follow you. They don't, you know what I mean? If you came down in 30th, would they have been like, oh, Reece, that's so sad, massive fan, I'm so glad to meet you, you know? They're the real fans. And even friends when you're cruising around the pits, the one that's actually stopped you in your tracks and are like, what's going on? How's your day? Like, that's the real ones. It's like,
they stand out.
You notice that, and they stand out, and they're the ones that you're willing to sacrifice time for, and you would help if you got the chance. Like, it is that you want that personal touch with people. So
and it's cool when you do get those super fans, and you're just like,
oh, absolutely,
you're like, my guy.
We were stopped outside the grocery store, and some guy came up and was like, Cade. And Cade's like putting the shopping away, and he's like just turns around. The guy was super cool, like, chill, lads, good to meet you, good luck. And Cade was like, oh, hey, head, and had a bit of a conversation, disappeared.
That's cool.
And then the guy came back with his phone, just quick selfie, and disappeared. So like, didn't sap up the time, but you could tell, like, he noticed him. He's obviously a fan of the sport. And even Cade was like, that's really cool. Like, I like that. That was a cool interaction. It's mad, on a different side of the world. He's on the other side of the world in a supermarket car park, and this dude just rolls up and knows you. Like, it's wild. It's an absolute wild experience.
Do you get that? Have you got that very often? Like, people recognizing you in just random spots you wouldn't expect?
I mean, obviously more often than 5 years ago. Like, it is every year. I'm like, there's more and more people recognize you, and it's something actually after World Champs in 2020, the whole mobile phone, like all of that sort of stuff. Like you said, you're like, right, you start to realize I am an image online. And whatever I post, people are going to view as a certain way and twist it, and that's their view on me. So it's so hard to know what to post and not get mentally twisted up with it.
You can't, because imagine how many Reece Wilsons are out there in the views of other people. Like that's
Exactly.
it. There's a
Versions
thousand.
of me.
There's a thousands of you because you post something and everyone twists it to their own way or their
Absolutely,
own way.
yeah.
So it's like you can't think about how they view you.
Yep.
Because it's like it's how you view yourself and how you promote yourself, and like that's what matters. And if people take it the wrong way, that's on them. That's not on you. And if they won't talk to you about that, and you can, because like, dude, you spend your whole life trying to convince people that you're a good person or you mean well, or you could just go, hey, you don't have to. If that's what you think, that's what you think. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because that's not why I'm doing it. But
well, that's where that's where a real in face-to-face conversation comes in, because you can't hide when it's face-to-face. You see straight away into somebody and you're like, okay, I understand you now. Like I see what you're about, and that is
Well, that's the thing that's kind of was going back to like just the internet in general, is people are taking things out of context and forming their opinions on that based off of one snippet you said or something like that, where you're like, no, I didn't actually, obviously, like you weren't being insensitive to COVID. It was like, Well,
that's the thing. You can write down about paper, you're a dick. Next to it, you're a dick. I can look at Charlie and go, you're such a dick, man. Or I can go, you're a dick. Two totally different things on the bit of paper, identical.
Yeah,
so that's how wildly different somebody can take a text. Like, don't talk to people. I'm terrible for my phone at the minute. I just neglect it in all shape or form. But really, pick up the phone and phone somebody. Have a FaceTime. Or if you're a fan, come to the race and talk to us. Because a text message is just, it's so far from what a feeling and emotion actually is.
Yeah, it's not real.
A connection, it's not real.
Yeah.
So like that's, like prime example, the two same words next to each other can mean 3, 4, 5, 6 totally wildly different things, depending on how you say it, where your eyes are looking, your body language. Like, it makes a difference.
And we get so, I guess, like
it's 2-dimensional on your phone.
Yeah, when everyone gets brought into that, like it's just all text or like Snapchat or like something like that. But it's like it's not real at all.
No,
it's
all
not. Just like this little like. And the amount of times, like I've done that before, I've sent a text message to someone having a joke and they haven't taken it as a joke. And you're like, what do you mean I was joking? It's like, I can't hear you.
Well, it wasn't funny. Full stop. You're like, sorry. I'm really sorry.
Oh man. Yeah, that is funny. How you can get, dude, even it was funny with the, some guy messaged me, like I got a heap of message actually, all these people like, don't worry about the comments, all this stuff, which was quite cool. But one guy messaged me, he's like, man, maybe just like be cautious and stay away from like saying stuff like that because you don't want to like stir the pot. And
well, that's the thing. It's like everything is very touchy.
But dude, I was like, I'm promoting health.
Yeah.
I'm promoting health. Like I was like, eat healthy, exercise, be in the sun. Some guys like, oh man, that's risky. Like that's taboo kind of thing. Like I wouldn't step on that.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like, like I said, it's like, it's good that people are standing up and calling people out for,
oh dude, I'm happy
for making their mistakes, but you can't, it's just too easy with the internet these days to misinterpret things.
Yeah.
And if you give, I very much went for the less is more on the old Instagram, like after the kind of World Champs things. Like if you go back and scroll through, you'll see I went through a period where I was doing like one post a month. Yeah. And I lost a lot of the personality. Like
brother,
putting my face videos, I was like, fuck it, I'm just not going to put my face on there because then people don't have ammunition to like make a decision, whether it's good or bad. Yeah. I felt I was better just being... You know,
you got those stripes on the back. You got a hall pass roll. Everyone else is posting about you.
I know. It's fucking stressful. A lot of people don't think about like how, like sticks and stones, names and that. But it took me a good year to be like, right, okay, no, it's bullshit.
Yeah,
get off your phone. Crap, it's absolute bullshit. If people truly like you, they'll be there when you need them to be. And that's all that matters. Like your followers, your likes, your numbers. Just get away. It's a means to an end for a job that we do. Yeah, and that's it. Everybody should feel like that.
It's so easy to get so caught up in it. As soon as like I think as people, like you get so comfortable with what you're doing, and like when the off season comes, man, I like throw my phone away, I just go back to like you go camping a lot. I kind of do similar stuff, go out in my van and travel, and like you get so comfortable with that lifestyle and you're like, hey, this is good. And then you come back to races and you start posting, oh, I've got lots of followers. Oh, I'm getting lots of likes. Oh, I'm getting attention. All that. It's like, more of that. But like as soon as you step away from it, man, you get so comfortable in the other way of being. Yeah. And it's such a slippery slope going down. Even with the podcast stuff, like I love this because I honestly don't know if I try, and it's a weird balance because I want to make it bigger and promote it and push it. I really like this because it's like a real genuine way of communicating with people and putting it out there. Like
you're in such a unique position to be able to roll into Athlete's House on a race week and get to do this. Like, there's not many people have that opportunity. Yeah, like it's so cool.
Imagine some random, like I said, I do appreciate that, and I think that's why it picked up so quick because like I was going to talk to like Brooke and Laurie at a race.
Yeah, exactly.
In their truck,
relaxed in their environment.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I can relate do exactly what they're doing, because it's not like, oh, what's the track like? I'm like, I know what the track's like. I'm racing you in it. So I think that's cool. But you can get so caught up in, like, when I was putting it out there, I started to like get better numbers, and then I started to push it more, and then you get so caught up in that world. Because when I first started doing it, man, like I would post them, I wouldn't even check how many downloads they got or anything. Then there's no way you can comment on this. It's just like, it's out there, and people would come up to me in person and say, I really like the podcast, I really like this, and I was like, I get to put out a real thing or experience or whatever, real content, and then as a return, I get in-person like gratitude and hype on that, where it's not like Instagram, you put out a photo that you're doing a whip or whatever, which is kind of cool, whatever, but then it's like all
there's
this
a
like
million people posting a whip every day,
exactly,
like,
but it's not
who actually cares.
Exactly. It's not real. So when I was posting this, I was like, oh, that's something real, and it's helping people because it's like pushing an idea that you feel is like good for them, and then they get like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, that's way more fulfillment in that than I think just posting normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Photos.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see our industry and how many people were hyped at the Sam Hill podcast when Gypsy Tales was doing that. When I seen the teaser for that, I was like, it was marked in my calendar. I don't use my calendar ever. And I was like, looking at the day, I was like, sir, like, we're actually going to hear the guy talk. Because he's not anywhere ever. And it's a conversation. It's not a write-up in a magazine. If I'd done a write-up in a magazine, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't have read it.
Yeah.
Like, it was the fact, it was a conversation. It was him being real in a real environment. Like, that's, it's cool.
And Gypsy's been trying to do that for a long, long time.
Yeah, but a lot of people have probably been trying to do that. A lot of
people. It was funny because I was like talking to him about like, we're trying to get Sam. I was like, you need to butter that man up. Like, and because obviously the moto thing, and Sam's got into that, he definitely like was like sliding that in there.
Yeah.
Oh, it was cool. It was funny because even when I listen, I guess because once you start doing podcasts, my mind switches.
Yeah.
And it switches in a good way because it's like you've got to become... Like I'm constantly thinking now about asking a question, also being engaging, and then thinking of the next question, which is like your brain's got a fairly ticket. I know it changes how you like have a conversation with someone, which is good because I actually enjoy it probably more so in a way because you ask more in-depth questions. But then when I watched Jace doing it with Sam, you could tell Sam was like, I mean, Jace was a fan of Sam, and there's a few times where I think, and I noticed with Sam, he does it when you like kind of fanboy him in a way. Sam like retracts in, and they get
because it's weird. Come on,
like imagine if
I've been like, whoa.
Yeah, imagine if I sat down here and was just like, oh my god, Reece, you were world champion. You were world champion in 20. Like, and you become uncomfortable when I sit down and like. You're just a dude from Scotland. That it's like I think that's once you look at people as being people, and I guess it's easy for us because we've all come up at the same time. But if you get someone come in that has never, I guess, been like lived that life, they kind of like you idolize people. Like
it's natural. You want to be what they are. Like it's, if they're the best, you want to be the best. Like we're all doing this because you want to be sick at it. Like, you know what I mean? Or why would you bother? Like. You want to do your best. Do
you find like you guys have someone you reckon if you saw in person, like a athlete or actor or someone, you'd be like, oh, that's like, is it who would be like top of your list to be like, if you saw them, you'd probably go, oh.
To be honest, not now. I think I'm at an age where I'm just like,
there's got to be someone.
Honestly, I mean, honestly, if I seen James Stewart, I'd be for a split second, I'd be like, what? It's actually him.
I thought the same thing, and when we were in Geico in America a few years back, someone's like, oh yeah, Roxon's here at the back. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I was like,
absolutely.
But I don't think I'd fulfill.
I don't think there's anybody that would stop me in my tracks and just make me go like stutter. You know, like I think it'd be pretty cool. But I appreciate cool people that do cool things. So I think you would be stood there going, "Fuck, you've done some pretty cool stuff." You're pretty cool.
It's funny. I hopped on a plane. I was flying in Australia. I don't know if it was international in Australia, but there was all these. I think they were rugby players.
Oh yeah.
And like when you're not in that world, you couldn't care. They're just people that are just there. Yeah. And then like I had no idea who they were. And then we got off the plane. There's all like the media and stuff, and everyone's around them. I'm like, I have no idea who you are. And it's so funny because it's like in your world, you're massive. And in the bike world, like we're big, but it's just like they're all such tiny little worlds.
Yeah.
Like it's funny when people like they'll be like, oh, you're famous. And I always say, man, it's like, I'm famous to like 12-year-old boys. Like they froth me. Like 12-year-old boys, like I'm right, like top shelf. But like the rest of the world, it's just like, you're a small fish in a big pond.
Absolutely,
And like once you grasp that and just kind of stop drinking your own kool-aid and just get on with what you're doing, it's like I think it's quite cool. Have you got anyone, Chuckles? You got a homie? I feel like you'd have a surfer or something.
Couple surfers.
Yeah, surfers definitely. I mean, like you said, like I feel like I'm at the point where like I could like hang out and have a conversation and be all good, but like when we go like surfing at home if there's like some heavies out, like
Some heavies.
you're just like, oh, and like you're like always like trying to make sure like, okay, make sure you don't get in their way, like don't drop in on them, like you're
just fin to the back of it.
But like, yeah, I feel like I could probably have a decent
It's not
conversation.
fanboy, it's respect, isn't it? It's a respect.
It's different.
But you do kind of feel that, like you're like, oh,
you get giddy,
man,
you don't want to embarrass yourself because they're cool. You know, like there's definitely a part of that.
Oh, that's funny.
Everybody, like you said, we're all the same.
You wouldn't have like a golf guy that you'd be like, oh man, Tiger Woods.
My relationship with golf's pretty unique. I mean, I'd obviously love to see him. Honestly, it's the game. Like, it's the fucking game. It's me and the ball.
Yeah.
Like,
so you
I'm
really
not that into it. No, I mean, I watch it and I follow it and I can watch it and think that's fucking insane. Like the level of skill is insane. But I'm not.
You don't.
But it's more respect for the game.
It's respect for the game. It's not. I'm not a massive frother of players, or like I don't really want to get into that aspect of it. Like,
I think I'm the same with that as well. Like I like doing sports, but I don't know people that
you don't need to follow the sport to enjoy it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's not the case.
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
need to be a massive fan. Like, oh, you like football, but you don't know who this guy is. And you're like, no, it doesn't matter. Like,
I just like kicking a ball.
It's a ball of wind if I enjoy kicking it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know who's good at kicking it. Just let me enjoy it.
Oh, it's so true, man. That's even with motocross now. I feel like I've just like I still enjoy watching it, but it's not something I'm like. I used to like have to watch every race and all that. Now it's like I still find it cool, but I'm not so engaged with it anymore. But it's like I love riding motocross still, but I'm not like I have to watch every race. And it's just like you don't have to get so invested in a certain thing.
Yeah. But I'd say again, it's just another distraction. That's you're sitting watching somebody else's life from the outside. Like, dude, could you be sat doing something better with your time right now? Probably. You know, like
I think about it. Like, there's a lot of entertainment, like us as entertainment, as watching downhill. Like, imagine if you're a guy that's like, okay, you've got the motocross you're going to watch, and then you've got the downhill you're going to watch a weekend, and then maybe you watch soccer as well. I'm like, that's a lot of viewing time.
That couch Formula One, what would you?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, days and days and days of your time.
Like even like a motocross thing. What's that? 2 hours?
Yeah,
like 30-minute motors. I'm like, by the end of that, I'm just like, man, that's a lot of viewing.
Slow morning.
Yeah, exactly. Aren't we good? We entertain the world, don't we?
It's good entertainment, I think.
Speaking of entertaining the world, okay, who are your picks this weekend? And you can't put yourself in it. Ooh.
I mean, I feel like no one here would be like, I'm on this weekend.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Charlie's like, come on, let me.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty good for this weekend.
I watched them. Danny has been on a nice. Danny's been on a nice build over the last few races, and this is actually. I was watching his GoPro from the race run here in 2019. A few days ago, and this is super similar to his home stuff like that. When I watched it back, I thought this makes sense now.
This is some awkward,
janky, slippy. Like it suits Danny, quite narrow, fast line. So I think Danny could be a cat amongst the pigeons this weekend for sure.
Just wreck another overall.
I mean, his attitude, I'm loving his attitude this year.
He's so much more chilled out.
He's so insane. Like whether he's meant to do it on purpose, I don't know. But every time I've seen him, he's having a laugh. He's bumping into you. He's chatting. I'm a big Danny fan this year for sure.
He used to be so like, I don't know if like he was just quiet or just.
I think he's focused, man. You just get caught up in that focus of trying to be the best. Like it's easy to do.
Because he went from like my favorite rider before I started racing World Cups, and then he went from like Danny Hart, the man, all this. And I met him, I was like, doesn't really say much and looks angry all the time. Not the biggest fan now. And then you kind of get to know him a bit more. Now he's fun, like you say, he's funny as hell and kind of like brings his kid to the races and his girlfriend. He's just having a good time. Got his motorhome.
I could see Danny stick in the box. I honestly think with Thibaut, I think he's strong enough now. That World Champs race didn't go his way. I think he's going to be. And then I think he's going to seal the deal.
Loris can't put a foot wrong, so there you go.
Magic feet.
Let's put that as the top three. Yeah.
So is it Danny, Thibaut, Loris, or like in that order?
Yeah, in any order. One of those three.
Okay, I like that. And like you said before, like the Danny Hart thing, this is like his track. Do you find it funny that like he is such a good World Cup racer, like at all kind of tracks, but then he grew up riding this, which I wouldn't consider this as like a like good European. Even you, like Scotland, like wouldn't say, like from what I've seen anyway, it's like there's not a huge amount of.
You think we're further away from a World Cup track. Like every tree is 800 mil wide and there's thousands of them. And it's just roots and jank. And you go World Cup, it's nothing like it.
And you wouldn't even have long tracks either. Like that's the thing we don't have in Oz.
No, yeah, exactly.
Longest tracks like
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Whenever I go to Andorra, I was like, "This is fucked. You're on the brakes for 4 minutes. This is a mountain. Like you need to stack 3 of our hills at home on top of each other to get anywhere close to this."
And even Chuck, you got California. That's
Yeah, it's
You've ridden all those tracks.
That's mountain bike. Dude, when I go to like Austria, when I got to
downhill, baby.
when I got to Leo Gang, and you're looking around, you're like, I'm a mountain biker, and there's a lot of mountains around here, and then you go, where are all the fast Austrian downhill riders? Like, there's a few, but like, it's crazy. It's like where you go, where it's like, this is where mountain biking should be huge, and it's just like, why isn't it here? Like, there's obviously a few top guys, but there's like no Germans.
But then it's France. Look at France. You're like, what?
Yeah,
where are they all coming from?
Then look at Italy, who's right next door. And there's like
none. There's come on. There's 2 or 3. There's some good ones.
There's some good guys coming up, but like I
know what you mean.
Comparing to
10
French,
or 15 guys to 3, it seems like a bit of a shock when their environments almost look identical.
Yeah,
it is interesting.
I was talking to Roberto Vanessa, Jean-Luc's dad, and he's like the coach for the Italian team, and he was just kind of laughing because he's like, where he lives is like an hour from like Loris, Loic, Burrell, all those guys, and he's like, and we have like 1 kid.
Yeah,
and it's just like, he's like, I don't understand. I don't get it. It's like, we have all the mountains, we've got facilities, we've got everything, and just people are just like, eh.
But I think honestly, that's where the icons play such. If you look back, Britain and France, huge, and they've not had a year where they haven't had a guy up there.
Yeah.
You know, when you have Steve Pete, you've got Warner, Steve Pete, Danny, G. Ather, and Rachel Ather. We've always had people that have been in the limelight, and same with France. So it's like constantly gives a kid something to look at, which is where, again, I don't think, you were like talking about before, don't want to be fanboy, we're just normal and stuff, but you're also
we're the shit. We're also the shit.
You are somebody that a kid is going to really look up to and might change their entire life just because of you, like want to do what you do.
I fully say that because Sam Hill was that. I was like, I want to be Sam Hill.
Exactly. You had Australia has had so many strong people coming through ever since him. He was with Troy, and Troy's still going. So then it's like those 2 players have brought all of you guys, and you've definitely done played your part as well. That's a factor. And obviously Italy's not had a guy that's got the kids to get into it. So
I wonder if like Andreas Cobb, like he was going to be like the
exactly,
Austrian
the
guy
benchmark for Austria,
and whether that's going to
and even Valley now as well.
Exactly.
Like in Scotland, I'm shocked over the last 2 years at how many kids are like really starting to come through. And you'll know yourself, you get tagged on Instagram locally and stuff. And now even looking at down the entry list at a race, I'm like, fuck, there's like 10 people from Scotland here. We're in America. Like, how is this? It's crazy. It's really growing. So
no, that's cool. I hope it does, because every year it seems to get like a little bit more. I don't know, COVID kind of messed with like how it was going and where it is going now. It's like pretty crazy now how many people just like line coaches and like TV is getting bigger and everything's happening like that. And it's just like, it's because it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Like it's growing so big, and the sport is just getting massive. So I'm like, how cool is it? How big is this going to get?
Sick Mick said that to me actually. I think we were in Innsbruck just chilling somewhere, and I was talking about it and made a comment about how it isn't as big as it used to be and not very sure why, and he actually stopped to and he was like, you know what, he was like, you're actually in, this is a good time. He said downhill's in a really good place, and obviously he'll know, he knows a lot of the big places. He's been here,
he's seen a lot of phases,
he's seen the waves of the sport, and he actually said, he was like, this is actually, the next 10-15 years is looking pretty good, like if it keeps going the way it's going.
Well, it's crazy how mainstream mountain biking has gotten.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've seen through COVID with the bike boom, like all anyone wants is a mountain bike.
And
hopefully that trickles in, because that's like a lot of people are buying mountain bikes, but it's like, how do you get them to then engage in racing, either viewing it or participating at the sub?
But I think people are so into it these days that most guys that will maybe never even ride a downhill bike, they just love mountain biking. So of course, I'm gonna watch the World Cup.
I just mean, because I got a lot of friends that got into like they got mountain bikes. They're all skiers that couldn't travel, so they just got bikes because they stayed in summer. But it's getting their attention to put into views and racing. That's the thing. You need to like grab their attention and put it onto racing.
And that just takes time. You can't just do that overnight. There's not one bit of content you can just post that's going to instantly switch people to make them sacrifice 2 hours of the weekend to watch it. Like it's hard to do. It takes time, and like it takes a player, it takes showman, like it takes almost a Leger run for me every single weekend from Sunday. It needs
build the hype,
brutal excitement for weeks and weeks and weeks in a row. So hopefully,
what would you not change, but what do you think is a big thing to make it to grow it? Because
we speak about this a lot.
I was like, how do we fix mountain biking right now? How do we not fix it, but how do we push it? Because
I think it mainly just comes down to getting out, like the more outside sponsors you can get from companies that don't have anything.
But what do you want? What do you want them to do with their money that comes in though? Like, where do you want them? Like, because for me, one big thing for me, why isn't qualifying televised? Even if it's not commentated, televised, at least even at the event. Like imagine if there was a TV at the bottom watching everyone's qualifying run and it was just played out like a race. Because we've got so much time after that. You could easily run that as like even 2-minute gaps. Like don't play the whole run, but record it all and then put it out there for the viewers to see. Like the equipment's there. We're putting it on the line still. It's like you're going 99% on a qualifying run. It's not like you're just like, oh, I'm just going to cruise and qualify. It's like you want points, especially if you're in like title race. So
the
like,
thing is, I learned a lot. That was so good for me doing the hardline experience, like being around all of the people that make our show go to the TV, and it shocked me at how many people it took and the amount of money each minute of live satellite time costs for Red Bull to post. So like I can almost understand why they don't do that, because the cost of it is.
But I'm not even saying run it live. I'm saying run it straight to the big TV at the bottom.
There must be costs. There must be a reason why. That's the thing.
Would
We're so in the dark as riders on how it all actually works. We don't know. But I'd fully agree. I'm agreeing with you.
I understand, but it's like when you've got people there's people on the hills holding cameras, pointing them at riders, and you're just like, just press record. And just put that footage in a thing and then release that. Because I'm like, yes, it's more money, but yes, it's more views. It's like I was talking to Martin Whiteley again about the short track and then the XC. So they have 2 events that they televise and their numbers are way better than ours. I'm like, that's not fair though. You're running 2 events. If you run qualifying and finals, that's 2 events. And it builds a story into the finals. Like imagine if you watch...
every other sport does it. They all have qualifying highlights, like a full show that you can watch that's just the highlights.
Imagine MotoGP, like who's racing? It's like, I don't know. There's no qualifying thing.
Yeah, if it just starts on the grid with the rider setting up, it's half the show.
And that's what we do. It's like it's straight to finals. There's no build. Like there's a little bit of build up about what's happening, but it's like very limited. Like because I talked to someone about if you want more people, you need to be able to grab someone that has no idea about mountain biking whatsoever, who's just flicked it onto Red Bull and go, hey, what's this? And they can actually build up into the finals. Because if you go straight to finals, you're like, why did he go last? Or like, like it's no, like you need to advertise it for the people who have no clue, and then like it's got to be advertised for everyone, but obviously the people who have no clue and bringing them in, like the super fans are going to watch it no matter what, no matter if they've got one camera on track and the timing's broken, they're still going to watch it. Like that's the thing, it's the people that you want to like grab and pull in.
I think there's a massive factor for me sitting watching it. It's a long show.
It is a long show.
It's a long show. I think something that's going to happen. I don't know when it will. I don't know how you do it, and it's fucking ruthless. But I think it's going to have to be cut again, like almost in half. Damn. Like but then when you do that, there has to be another series. There has to be a feeder series. Every other sport, there's so many feeder series. There's not just one. There's loads of them. We're trying to condense 60 guys in an exciting show now, and it's difficult. It needs to be. I think it needs to be even less again. Yeah,
but that's the thing. That's
some controversial. There's ways you can do it, but people are going to argue.
I do know that because that's the thing. Everyone argues about like, okay, well, if you cut it down, that's going to be harder for people to break into it. But I'm like, but if they're running their own series, then the top 10 or something then move over into it. I'm like, well, then you're not cutting it down. You're giving them an opportunity to break into that, but they're not giving them that. They're just putting them all in the one. But I also get that becomes tricky as well for then like juniors coming up. Do juniors, obviously they've got their category. Do they go straight? Like do the top 5 juniors? Yeah, it's a lot of like...
Dude, I think it's harder. Like you said before, you go a national race at home or like a little race, whatever it is at home. You're chill. It's a small environment. There's a burger van and that's about it. Some guy on a mic at the end talking crap, and then you go to the next stage, is national, a little bit bigger. And then you go from that straight to World Cup where you've got hardcore veterans of the sport out front, like smoking you by 20, 30 seconds. Then you're then it becomes unrealistic. For a junior that gets thrown into elites that was maybe a 5th, 6th place junior, they're nowhere near qualifying at any race. So within a year, 2 years, you've completely killed all of their hopes and they're not interested in their anymore. Their parents can't afford to do it. There's no teams there to support them. There's no races to get UCI points to get to them, and that's it. So I feel now we actually have a worse line in the sand for kids trying to get in than there would be if you had a feeder series, because it would just add. There's ladders missing. It's like 3 steps and then just jump, bam, you're in the big league. It's too big a jump. They need that feeder series, a junior version of it, or like an under 23 and under 21. I think MotoGP is actually a really good example of this. They have that Red Bull Juniors League or something where they're all on identical bikes. and they race through, and then you go to Moto2, and then you go to MotoGP.
Yeah, it's a better build-up, yeah.
It's a way better build-up. We don't have that. But again, it's not nobody's fault. It's just the sport's young.
Yeah,
and it's growing fast, and now we're at a point where we need to start looking at that, like how you actually get kids up into it fairly, because no teams are signing juniors because the points suck. Like, they don't get any TV time.
Yeah, another thing.
There's so many factors. You're killing it for kids. You're making it impossible for kids and parents to get to these events.
Yeah,
like,
because even with Tebow, like, he was winning as a junior, but from the outside viewer, no one knew who he was.
Yeah,
and then he comes, and now he's going to win. Like, possibly could win the overall. I'm like, and people would be like, where did he come from? There's never watched him on TV. It's like, why aren't the top 10 juniors there? Again, they run, just film them. Don't live stream them, film them, and then release them afterwards. Be like, junior race. Don't even commentate over them.
Yeah, just, you know, I went to Max's house after Lenzerheide to get the Sleeper Co. Max, I think it was Ben Cather's idea. Max and Glenn sat down, filmed it and edited it, and they've made that happen. They filmed the entire junior race at Lenzerheide and sat and commentated over it.
Really?
Yeah, and I think they're planning on posting it to Pink Bike. So that's like, and when I went round, I sat them, and they're just, it was Ben's idea, and they'd done it out of the good of their hearts. Like, they got their girlfriends to stand with an iPhone and film all the junior riders.
Oh, dude,
and
that's
they're,
cool.
They're trying to make it happen. I was sat there thinking, fuck, this is it. Like, this is the big step. Like, film the top 10 juniors. Like you said, then you can follow their career through the 2 years. It gives them a build up into the big leagues. It allows teams to scope them out and see where they're at. Like, there's so many things that opens up to. And I sat there for both of them. I was like, I'm so stoked you guys have done this. Like, this is a great idea and something so good for the sport. Yeah,
throw a sponsor on that, like, and be like, how many people are going to view that and be like, oh, who are the quick juniors? What are they? Because if you go watch the juniors in the morning at a World Cup, it's dead. It's so dead.
At the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, where nobody's up, nobody's about, there's no fans in the venue. Like, they make it brutal for them. But like I say, there's too many elites. The day's too long. We're trying to do too much racing in one day. We're trying to get practice. We've already said on race day morning, your hour of practice. Women only get 15 minutes. They get one run.
No, they get practice in the morning with the juniors.
Oh, is it the other way around? They get more practice.
They get more because they get their morning practice, but then they get like the 10 or 15 minutes in hour practice as well.
They just get that first run so they can see the track.
But you know what I mean? There's the way it's all planned out and stuff. You're like, this is cooked. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And that's strictly because they've got a TV time that they need to jam all of this racing into. It makes it really difficult. So by splitting it all up.
Yeah. I feel like qualifying too almost needs to not be a thing, because the way they structure it, and it, like, because of like formalities. Like, if you look at Leo Gang, there was so many people that missed lap 2020 and then came in, and then there were so many good guys that were unprotected. And just because, like, because of the legality of what we have to do qualifying, it's like, you could, you know, something happens, mechanical or whatever, then you could be, you know, a top guy doesn't qualify, and then, like, there were so many guys that would be in the title fight for this year.
Yeah, dude, I think it's like top 20 protected. Just straight up top 20, like, not this whole, but if we find someone from last year's out, then someone else is in. Like, realistically, anyone in the top 20 could possibly podium or win.
Yeah.
And or even, like, I feel like, even the top 30, like, we were talking the other day, we were like, pretty much every single person that's finishing top 30 on a finals day has probably had a top 10 in their at some point in their career.
I also don't know why we can't do in every other sport, why we need to have individual number boards every week and we need to be in that category. Why can't we just all pick numbers and stick with your number your whole life? Like, for people following the sport,
it's branding.
It's
for yourself.
Way better. It's branding for yourself, and they can tune in to number 5 every single week. They can spot you on track, they can spot you on social media. It's easy. The number changing thing's a total pain in the ass. And then you almost need the top 10, top 20 guys to be just one set number all year in that set position, and they always come down the hill in that order. And then you're qualifying somehow. You could make.
I think that's a bit tricky as well if you do the same order all the time, because you're going to have obviously people at certain races that don't perform as well. Because the whole, like, just at world champs, for example.
No, but you could still have the number set and then change the start list.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There would need to be qualifying. And like you say, there's never just one. You can't just set every year and go, this guy's going to win and he's going to be top 5 every week. It doesn't. The punctures. There's too many variables in our sport, and trying to create an exciting race is difficult, because it's so important that each man comes down, gets faster and faster and faster.
It builds the race.
It needs to be
world
like
champs, dude, pissed me off because I'm like, you get some guy coming down randomly, which is what happened, and he sat in the hot seat for 30 riders. And it's just like, okay, that's just imagine, like, being a commentator watching everyone come down slow. It'd kill me. It's
Rob said that to me. It's the hardest hardest task of the week. First split 4 seconds back, and you're sat there like, fuck, I need to find something to talk about for 5 minutes. Like nothing against them. Yeah. It's just how it's just it's a flawed system.
Can he pull it back?
Yeah. It's just
He's 7 seconds down now. It's just like, man. But it's the thing when you put like Laurie, Brooke, like heaps of random guys, and I know obviously it's all the UCI points, but if you're gonna have qualifying, don't put like points or anything. Run that order. Like run that order. Like. I saw that and I'm just like, oh, like surely someone with like a bit more brains could be like, okay, well it's going to wreck the build up of the race.
Yeah, I think it needs a lot of change. I think time is now, like Mick said, the sport's in a good place and it's growing so fast that sooner rather than later, sit down and actually think about how we can make it better, because there's so many ideas, and that's just between us three, what we've discussed there alone. If you sat down, every rider, every manager in this pits, and said what could be done, what needs to be better, the ideas that you would get, like you could make a series insane. And it almost needs to go away now. We spoke about this, you compare it to motocross, but it's so far from any other form of cycling now. Downhill is so unique, and it's like it's close to motocross in the fashion sense, I would say, like how we dress ourselves, and even after the races,
I think the
like
culture as well of how we are, like how we are as people is similar. Post
press conferences, like all that sort of stuff, we could be doing so much better with that MotoGP style. Like it needs to be restructured in a massive way. It would benefit us so much.
Why don't the top 5 or top 3 or whatever go to a press conference straight after the race and sit down and answer questions like this instead of Win TV running around, which is cool, but it's like it's not professional. And that should be that should be released that night and then put out. It's just more content, more views, more people engaged.
Well, I guess that's the simple answer really then to your original question of like what can be done. It's like just make it more professional, and I feel like the progress with that has been super positive. Like I feel like every year it gets more and more professional, but like you said, it needs to keep going towards that direction where you're like, it's more of like, I don't know, more inclusive, I guess you would say, as far as like media and just like the story of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But even like when you MotoGP, Rossi and stuff, like Rossi's one of the sickest dudes ever. He's retired now. Every press conference he was sat down with his shirt on, his hat on, like looking professional at a press conference. The same with people are like, oh, but then you lose personality, it's boring. You watch Formula One now, like Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, like all of those guys have such good personalities, and Formula One's allowing it to come out by constantly filming them and not cutting out swear words and like just letting them do it. They're real people on TV. And like you watch our shows back, you barely get to hear from us. You get one interview from the winner, and that's it. You hear nothing else. Like we have no personality, and there's the pits are full of personality. Like,
it is. It just doesn't shine through.
It doesn't ever get to shine through. So making it more professional and finding a way to get personalities out there and making it.
Because that's what you need to do. Like I look at sports that they'll grab like a young up and coming star, and they'll just like use him, like he's the one that's going to lift this up. And if you got someone with like especially a young kid that's got personality, like just say Tebow for an instance, if the UCI like let's use him as like our cash cow in a way of like building him up, like young French kid, he's coming up, he's winning all the junior races, he's going to elite, and then he wins the overall. Imagine that storyline to build him up. But it's just like, no, we don't care about him as a junior. Oh, now he's winning elite. Now we care. Now we care. It's like, but people want a backstory. They want to be told, like they want to see the whole process of where he's come from. But yeah, it's tricky. Would you guys race? Just say that qualifying was filmed, but they pretty much, qualifying is pretty much another race. So you had time training, practice time training, and then it was almost like 2 races. Would you be happy to do a format like that? Maybe the points are a bit less the first time, but still, it's still kind of.
So are you saying like 0 to 60 still get points in qualifying? Or is it like now where it's just top 20?
No, 0 to 60. Whoever top qualifiers, you might even have to cut it down if you want to actually film it all properly, because you're going to have bigger gaps. So maybe just say hypothetically 1 to 40 gets in. Yeah. But then, 1 to 40. Wait,
I feel like if there was less people racing,
we'd have to.
That's what I was said with like qualifying not being a thing. Like if you cut the riders down and get there, it's like you're racing this weekend. And you're going to finals.
Yeah.
So that's something that you could do with that sense, and then you could just run it as another race, maybe half the points or whatever.
Because I guess it's just the thing is it's too many people to run 2 races. 140 people running 2 races, you're not going to have the time. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, I feel like now, like we said before, coming here into America and it's like we've got 2 races, it seems way more worthwhile to travel with all these people, all this team, everything. It's like you get 2 shots at it.
Yeah.
Well, realistically, I don't think qualifying points count for the second race. They do for the first. I think the second.
Really?
Yeah, the second race they don't count, but then they go to finals.
You were throwing some.
So that's what they did with the last time.
Yeah, last time. Yeah. So the first race you get points for qualifying and then points race. So technically you've got 3 here, but normally 4 chances or 2 chances at a race.
Well, the last race is double points then.
It's not double. It's just
it's what you would have gotten in qualifying.
Yeah. So if you win the last round, you get first qualifier, first finals.
Yeah.
So you can have a bit of a jump.
You could. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like we've come here. It seems so much more worthwhile to travel with 14 people to America, and then you've got 3 shots at actually performing. Where it's like, if we went, just imagine we came here 2019. We had 1 race, which was fine, whatever. But it's just like it's so much effort to travel here. It's like, why can't we just do 2 races, even if it's not the same spot? But like you said, go to Monsanto or go somewhere else.
We said this to Chris, the amount of mountains that we go to that you're looking around going, holy shit, you could have like 10 World Cup tracks down this track, like in a 200 metre patch down the hill. So maybe that is something going forward. Venues have to have multiple tracks, and we can go there, we can race both tracks, or each year you alternate them. So you're on a different track, because let's face it, the tracks we're going to now are clapped out.
Yeah.
There's some tired tracks out there.
I low key want to become like the technical director, because I'd be like, "Oh, boys, I will
the same.
I will blow my own horn that I feel like I make a pretty good racetrack." I'd be pumped. I feel like I know it's funny. Some guys in Australia actually hit me up about doing it in Oz. Yeah, it's quite funny. This guy came up to me in the supermarket, random as, and I'd like kind of recognize him. You see him at races, and he comes up to me and he just starts chatting, and he started off with like, yeah, you know, like you like. Your career's getting towards the end, and like I was like, tell it to Greg Minard. Like, come on, man, I got years. But it was just funny how he meant well, but he just didn't really. The presentation wasn't the best. And he's like, if you're interested, we're like looking at getting like a technical delegate in Oz, and I was just like started ticking over in my brain, like, oh, that could be cool.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to vote for a new one at Val di Sole, right?
No, that was a rider's rep.
A rider's rep. But similar thing. It's like a job. Yeah. When I got the email through from that, I was like, I'm quite enjoying doing that. Yeah. When you're balls deep in a career, it's kind of hard to do both jobs well. It's like being universal. You're just not going to do anything well. You know, like you're going to just half-arse everything. So
yeah, I couldn't do that.
Not really ready for that yet. But there are loads of jobs out there, man. I'd love to see positions changed amongst UCI and stuff like that. It's like this massive restructure. There's a lot of change you can make up the tree. But it's trying to get ex-riders or current riders in that really understand this stuff. Like the feature situation we've had this weekend, the final feature, that like might just get cut in half. Some poor guys have built that thinking it's going to be sick as, and we're just going to cut it to bits with a chainsaw and turn it into a double. You're like, fuck, we could have told those guys, you know, like if somebody knew what they were doing, it came here months ago to check the track that should have been finished and taped off that nobody can ride. Somebody could have said, why is that not going to work?
That's so tricky. Like, dude, I went and walked it a couple of days ago just to kill time, and they're building jumps now, and I'm just like, that's probably a bit late to be doing it, because the ground is super wet anyway, so it's going to be soft, and then that's just dangerous because you just get big holes that just grab wheels, and I'm just like you've had literally all year. All year, and it's just like, why? And it always happens, man. We go to Leo Gang, and they're literally making new features the day before track walk, and you're like, there's no testing done now to see if that works, for one. And then we've just got to go through ourselves down in it tomorrow, and then if it doesn't work, then we've got to complain, and then they're like, oh, we don't have time to fix it. And I'm just like, why was this just not done earlier? Like,
the calendar came out 7 months ago. Like, how did you not know? In fact, we know where world champs are going to be for the next 3 years in advance. Like, so do you. I don't understand how that happens either.
The day before, like, we should probably fix this, and you're like,
what I do think needs to be a thing is the tracks getting taped. You know, they can decide whatever the time period is, month and a half, 2 months, a month prior to the race, tape it, close it. No one's allowed to ride it. It doesn't matter if you're riding the bike park or what, because the way it is now, we're getting to these tracks and they don't even get to go through the period of betting into a proper racetrack. You get there and the thing is just destroyed already.
I understand. I agree with that, but also at the same time, I think it's tricky because a lot of the places we go to are bike parks, and there's many like crisscrossing in them. I think that's just tricky.
Yeah, well, and that's why I said you need the time period, because it's like, you don't want to affect the bike park. You know, essentially close it down. It's like if it's a month or whatever, and they have 8 bike park tracks. Closing one is,
or just having one as a racetrack, like a
Yeah,
like a Whistler or certain other places. They've like, this is our World Cup track. You can ride everything else, but not that. That's got a chain across it. That's closed.
Well, that's it. That goes back to the excitement, views, getting viewers, and making the sport rad as. How many times have we been to tracks where we go, wow, this jump, if this takeoff was twice as big and you had to pull for it, this could be fucking huge. Like, it would be so exciting. We have motocross sized jumps, but they can't do it because it's a bike park track.
Yeah.
We want to market it so that anybody can come and ride the track that the pros ride.
Yeah.
But then 90% of the features we ride are like, this is so sketchy because it's too small.
Yeah.
The speed we're going is just so far from your everyday punter. So maybe it is about time that they split it off, and we got our own tracks. We got custom built tracks, or tracks that were specific to the speed we were going at.
Yeah.
And then you would get way more exciting racing. Like, watching Hardline this year, Bragg's run from top to bottom when he was actually racing the track, it's a bit too extreme, obviously. We're not going to go that far. But it gave you a really, really good showing at how savage the track could actually be, like how good we actually are on bikes. Like, it doesn't just have to be going fast. You can make technical features that look sick, that are hard to ride.
Just make that middle ground. Yeah, kind of middle ground between Hardline and what we've got now.
Yeah, but like every venue we go to, we're just riding a bike park track that mates can message you going, oh, I rode that and you made it look so much easier. And you're like, well, dedicate my life to this. Like, I hope I could do this better than you. Like, it is. I feel like it could be so much more exciting if every venue, just like Leger done, I guess, just went, right, fuck it, and we're just taping a freshie down here dedicated to the top boys in the world.
Yeah, it's a racetrack.
And you're not going to come and ride this. We're going to post it off because it's too dangerous for you. Like, tough luck. You don't just get to rock up to a Formula One track and you're fucking Peugeot and drive around it.
Or a supercross track.
You're not
You're not hopping
on supercross tracks.
No sport is like that other than ours. So it's a bit like, what are we doing here, you know?
Because that's the thing. It's like it gets dumbed down so everyone can do it, but then it's just like, shouldn't we be doing the opposite? But then
elevating, dumbing it down so everybody else can do it is making us stagnant. It's leveling us out where we could keep going. And people are just going to need to suck it up and either become professional and join in, or I'm sorry, you can't ride our tracks.
But like you said, like, I can't ride a supercross track.
No, me neither. I've got no business being there. Like, I'm not going to go and do that.
But you got to understand that it's like, I shouldn't be here. This isn't for me. Yeah, that's a cool way. Well, vote for me, man. Vote for me. I'll hear the podcast.
I'll be giving you my card later. And
my financial advisor.
I wonder what role, if I did stop racing, what role I'd play at the World Cups. What could you see me doing? I'm just the hype guy.
Personality.
Just Donnie's Superman. What is the rollers on that motocross track with the guy that wears the ghillie suit and he just stands
the Whoop Monster.
He's like a Whoop Monster that goes to every race.
Dude, I love that Pink Bike does a thing. Dean Lucas retires and becomes the monster. And then all the hate comments be like, oh man, we're back here again.
Wouldn't have been a monster if he got his vaccine.
Come on now. All right, we've done 2 hours. I'm happy with that. Do you guys want any final words before we wrap it up? I'm sure we're getting hungry.
Solid podcast. Don't worry about it.
Was that the first one you've done?
First on the experience. Yeah.
On the experience, man. Off track.
Hell of an experience.
I thought because what was I going to say? Because you did the hardline thing. I was like, it's like obviously similar but different. But did you feel like that was like? Had you done anything like that before you did
Nothing,
that?
No.
Was it daunting to like?
No, it was funny as hell because I turned up and they just like handed me a microphone and a script and they were like, well, hey, on you go. And
so you actually had to talk off a script for
Yeah, like read scripts for the daily trackside stuff. Like, it was ridiculous the first day. I came back down, a line on the grass in the middle of the field, absolutely sparkled, like knackered. It was a huge day. Yeah. And the editor came over to me and she was like, oh my God, you were absolutely brilliant. Like, where did you get your media training? And Rob burst out laughing. I burst out laughing. I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, I don't know why you guys handed me a script. And everybody stood there with just a white face, obviously thinking, wow, we could have really fun. Imagine if I got there and just bottled it, because it is super nerving.
Yeah, it's pressure.
A camera, you've got 4 or 5 people there, like producers, waiting to hear what you're saying, and then they kind of stand there with their eyes closed and obviously imagine how the show's going to look in their eyes. Like, it was a hell of an experience. There was one point I was so nervous I was actually shaking. Like, I was stood next to a jump, and when you make a mistake, like, you might have to do something 20 times over, and then the words start getting all confused. It gets worse, and I'm dyslexic as shit. I'm really bad at reading. Like, I need to take my time and I'm slow, so if I get rushed and I get nervous, palms go sweaty, I fall a bit. And I had a few moments like that, and they were all like, wow, you've handled it really well. Like, I was in at the deep end, I had no choice. And then towards the end of the week, you get to know the staff, and it was chill. By the end of it, I was like, that was actually really, really cool. Like, it was chill, but
because that was fun. Everyone, and you said you had no media training. I was like, dude, we've been training since we got on a bike. Like that's the thing.
Well,
like,
that's the thing exactly.
Yeah, it's like we haven't had training, but there's big cameras put in our face and interviews and all that. I'm like, that's when I started doing this. I'm like, oh, I'm good at this. I'm like, oh, because I've been doing it for so long.
That's actually something that probably parents should click on as well. It sucks to see a kid failing, but my dad, I hated him for it. In the 65s, wanted a graphic set from a bike for the local team. And he's like, if you want it, you're going to have to go and ask for it. And I'm like, this tiny little nervous, like I didn't want to do it. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, I was like, come on, Dad, like come and ask him for me. And he was like, no, you're fucking doing it. So eventually I went over and asked him. Of course, the guy's like, oh, no problem. I'll get you a set of graphics for your bike, number on them, custom. Like making kids go out and like you say, communicate and actually talk. It's now more than ever so important.
Yeah,
so
especially
like said,
with the digital age and
not like watch it. Even if you're watching a kid pouring their juice, like you're like, this is going to go over the fucking table. I'm going to clean it up. Let them do it because then they see the mistake they made and they can then learn from it. Don't just do it for them. And like you said, that's that training. My dad's been training me from this high to like be out in the real world and have to do stuff for yourself.
Well, you need the struggle. You need the struggle to actually realize like, oh, okay, that didn't work. Let's try and do it this way.
That's just like life in general. It's like everything comes out of the struggle. So
embrace the struggle.
Embrace the struggle. It was funny though because everyone was saying when you went to it and they're like, oh, Reece is just going and commentating. I was like, and they're like, what is he doing? And I just started laughing. I was like, that man has got it sorted out. Like I saw that and I was just like, did I need a 3-person commentary team? Like I was so keen just to come and do that. And I was like, I saw that and I was like, because I think Hardline's a cool event, but I don't know. It's just like, I know I could do everything, but it's just like one of those things like, I just don't want to. Like I'm like, I've got some time off. I'm just going to chill for a little bit. Like we just had like a month of racing straight.
Well, that's the thing. People are always like, oh, why don't you hardline? I'm like, it's just not worth the risk.
It's just
to me.
Middle of the season, it's quite gnarly. But what you did,
middle of the season's gnarly, and then it makes even less sense at the end of the season.
Exactly.
It's like, I mean, my thinking is like, dude, if I finish the last round of the World Cup series, I'm going to the off season healthy. I'm not risking.
Not touching that.
Dude,
the thing is now as well, the top 3 or 4 guys have been doing it for since 16, so they've had a lot of years on it. So for any one of us now to rock up, if you've not been doing it every year, huge disadvantage. Like it's a gnarly track. So you're almost now more than ever. You're like, you're weighing it up. Doesn't add up.
It's past my time.
Doesn't add up. I should have been in there in year 3 at least.
Dude, I got I think it was 15 was the first year because I got invited.
Danny went down that year.
Me and Mark got invited, and Gabe Fox was like, "Come on, man, it's not even that gnarly." I'm like, "It's literally called Hardline," and I was like, same thinking as you. Like, I'm going home after the season anyway. Gabe kept on hassling me, like, "Come on," and I was like, I was seriously thinking about it. I was like, "Oh, I'll keep the team happy. I didn't have the best year. Well, why not?" And then I was like, "No, I'm going home." Anyway, pulled the pin. Mark went there day 1, wraps himself around a tree, can't race, and I'm just like sitting at home, just like, it's like, good move, Dean. Like, good move, because it is gnarly, man. Like,
hey, Gabe, hardline next year.
just message him. It's like not that hard. Is it? Oh, sick. All right. Well, I'll leave you boys to it. Thank you for the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for your time,
Thank you for the knowledge. That was a good one. I like this one. I like these ones. They run smoothly.
That was a good vibe. Thanks for listening, guys.
What are your channels if they want to follow you guys? Actually, we're not looking at follow. Put them out there. Where do we find you guys?
If you want to,
you just roasted social media, and then you're like, if you want to use social media, where are they?
Actually, don't use social media. Throw your phone away.
Yeah. If you want to follow us, don't bother. Go outside.
Actually, throw your phone away. Go outside.
Read a book.
Eat your vegetables.
Go pat your dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, is that you? I was like, it sounded like a jet.
I'm packing up here.
Yeah, it sounds like, when a jet's like.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Love you much, Lee.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
good show.
Oh, you go out of the world.
That was easy. Hopefully I don't get roasted for calling out the cancel culture.
That was easy. I like doing easy ones.
Get canceled for calling out the cancel culture.
Questions? We just rolled there, right?
Oh, I did.
Or did you hit us with a few?
Oh, I just need to write them down because if I write them down, I remember them, but I don't normally look at them when I'm actually doing it. Yeah, I pretty much touched on all them, but yeah, if I write them down, then they're easy to remember.
Yeah,
but I hate looking at them.
Yeah,
but it's good if you do 3 people. It gives me a chance to actually check.
I didn't even see you checking it. That was fluid. Have we missed dinner? Lunch?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Hour ago.
Oh shit. That's fluid.